All right, looks like the stream is going, so I will get started. Welcome, everybody, past, present, future, or whatever your perception of time is, if at all. Because we're going to get into that topic a little bit. What is time? Is it an agreement or is it an actual? Is it a perception of cycles? Yeah. So let's talk about, perception of time and space relative to energy and plasma fields and energy binding and how people combine collective brainwave. All right. All humanity as a collective, all brainwave as a collective, and all human frequency as a collective combines together like circular grids to structure the reality that we all exist in. And so nothing is real, yet everything is, right? I mean, we're making it what it is. And so tonight I want to get deeper into that topic involving entertainment and Hollywood, especially since we're seeing examples like with Balenciaga and Kanye and this whole discussion of Nazism and the fashion industry. And, we just seem to be going back into these repetitive loops over, is it really happening? Are they being that bold? And of course, yes. And so now we need to start understanding, like once the game has been revealed and we all know what, and the quote, the jig is up, then why are they doing it now? And that's why I'm trying to get deeper into the why and the how as far as architecture goes within the method, and less about getting deep into deciphering what they're doing, because that's the game. And I hope folks are starting to understand that a little bit better. Is the game is to get us to focus and concentrate on them, and to not focus and concentrate on things that make our reality as a collective and as a group and as individuals better for ourselves and one another and as a country. And in the process, because they're in control of the media cycle currently, this doesn't harm them. Getting us to focus and concentrate on them does not harm them. Getting us to focus and concentrate on a guy like Sam Bankman-Fried doesn't harm him, because he's not in jail and nobody's demanding it. And lots of people are demanding it. But the point is that what these people wind up doing is creating a completely safe environment through which to troll everybody as a collective and get us to focus and concentrate on them. So I'm just trying to explain it as a science-based process, what witchcraft truly does, and discuss it less in old school terms and more in new terms involving science and biology. And when you combine these concepts of energy-based sciences and human biology, you have the field of energetics and bioenergetics. And what I believe witchcraft is structural psychology and mass resonance manipulation that uses specific rituals that have been practiced over centuries in time through which to manifest realities through a common frequency, which is the process of cymatics. And so just as much as, when you play bass, into boom, 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 through that drum, right? And you put the sand on top, like that whole cymatics thing. I'll show you that example here in a little bit. That structures reality. That's sound that actually forms a perfect pattern and structures something into physical reality that would not exist without that constant. That's a perfect pattern, right? It's just simply a bass tone it's playing. It's like a music is playing at a certain level of hertz, but you see it still forms this perfectly symmetrical pattern when you place sand on top of the speaker, Good evening too, by the way. Sorry, I didn't mean to ignore your comments there. Thank you for joining, Just a Root, and anybody else who's out there. Appreciate you being here. And so I've done quite a few of these like type of Twitter posts in the past, guys. I was doing them before my channel went on hiatus. There was quite a few that I did that I thought were really good back in the summertime, I think. Yeah, it was sometime around there, summer and springtime, before my contract really started going into high gear. And before I went into the seafood thing, I did a whole bunch of these Twitter posts that were really, I mean, some of them were pretty good. And one of them that I did was about Lil Nas X, and he did this whole campaign involving like releasing a song and then in tandem having a shoe like that was a repurposed Nike that they removed the original soles of the Nike and then they put human blood inside the new sole, and they called it like the Lil Nas X 666, and they had like chapters of the Bible in this blood shoe, and it was like a law of reversal ritual, a blood ritual, made into this sort of like guerrilla marketing campaign, like they were trying to be clever and like, ooh, the devil and blood, and like, yeah, I bet this is going to make all the conservatives lose their minds. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is going to make all those church people lose their minds. Like, it's that kind of like idea that they have that. And honestly, guys, there used to be a time, but I used to think to myself, like I used to like not believe in either belief system, right? So I would think that both Satanism and Christianity were equally fake, or not. Let me put it this way: not so much fake, but that you could not manifest them into physical reality, and they never existed in physical reality. So I never believed in either one. Okay. Um, and so it's hard to explain to people where I stand on it today, in that I still don't really necessarily, quote, believe in a rigid system of religion. What I believe in is that we are all manifesting a common storyline that has existed on some level and been sort of like repurposed and rewritten, but it's still going in repetition. And some of that's within the Bible. So, whatever that is, guys, whether you believe it starts with the Bible or it starts with something else, like if you think it's the Quran, if you think it's, something with the, Torah or the Talmud, or if you think it's something involving, some Eastern mysticism. I mean, whatever, guys, I'm not here to like question that or challenge it excessively. What I mean to say, though, is there's a common thread that you're going to find in nearly every belief system and religion. And again, it's the power of faith and the power of belief. So what does that translate to scientifically? I would argue that within religion, you have people that are like within benevolent forms of religion that are actually trying to help their practitioners and bring a common energy that is creation and life energies into a common system of beliefs that actually will be something that people can tap into as a source of common resonant frequency power. So what do I mean to say by that? Well, let's just use Christianity as an example. The more people that draw positive associations and focus and concentrate on a Christian cross and draw positive associations to it as a healing symbol, well, then it begins to take on that. But then there's other people that focus and concentrate on it more involving the sacrifice of Jesus himself, instead of it being about the eternal, right? About there being the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and what it really translates to. Some people focus excessively on the sacrifice, the nails in Jesus's hand or whatever. See, you have both of these things that are feeding into a common resonant frequency that is associated with the crucifix or the cross or Jesus or Christ or whatever it is. And so I would argue that what people are doing within these belief systems, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, or you believe that you have the real one and somebody else has the fake one, I would say that it's a little bit of a voting system involving how we bend plasma. How do you want history to be? How do you want the future to be? Because none of it really is set in stone. It's all being sort of updated and manipulated in real time, like this big loop of cycled energy that some groups are capable of rewriting entire chapters of history going back decades. I don't mean to go all over the map here, guys. I'm just saying, like, this is how it's translating into our physical reality. Are you noticing it with things like the mandala effect? Are you noticing it with things like, it kind of seems like the last 10 years, all of a sudden there's these histories that you don't really remember existing before. Like, how come I would have, shouldn't I have known that before now? And, in some cases, like, well, I think a whole bunch of people, I think millions of people globally thought the same thing. Shouldn't I have known that before now? But see, nobody dug deeper past that because it was suddenly populated on the internet and it was spread all over the place. And then it became a shared belief and it became a common belief and a common known thing that has just been repeated so many times that nobody questions it any longer. You know what a good example of this is, folks? Any of you spent time in corporations that dealt with the topic of diversity, I know you've heard this story. There's this whole story involving the Chevy Nova being marketed in Mexico. And the reason why they tell you this story is to say that it's a good thing to have people that are bilingual in your company. It's a good thing to have a multi-ethnic group. It's a good thing to have people of different ages. It's a good thing to have people of different, races, genders, etc. Okay. Trying to extend the scope of diversity beyond simple gender and race, but also to say, like, sometimes the languages they speak is a good thing to have, or just their cultural perspective, even if it has nothing to do with their race. It could just be the place that they were raised. Maybe the person isn't, quote, Mexican, but they were a person that's Anglo and was raised in a completely Mexican neighborhood. So they had a completely authentic experience and they know the culture inside and out. They just don't have the label to suggest that they would. But their cultural experience would be valuable in understanding things involving marketing things to people that are Mexican or Mexican American. So here's how the story goes. It's not true. Okay. But we're all told this. And I've been in like 3 different companies that I heard the story, or no, I think it was the same company that I heard it, like, through some independent trainer. And then another person told it to us in a diversity council thing. And then there was another company that I was in that told us the same story. The point is, they tell you how Chevy, the company, tried to market the Nova down in Mexico, and that the car completely flopped when they tried to sell it in Mexico under its original name. They tried to sell it under the Chevy Nova. Well, those who understand Spanish, Nova means does not go. Nova, don't go. Nova, va means to go. Va means to go. No obviously means the same thing in Spanish as it does English. So the suggestion is that Mexicans were like, I'm not going to buy a car that does not go. What a dumb car. I am not going to buy this. Oh, yeah. Okay, guys. Right. Like, Mexicans didn't have the sophistication to know that a Nova meant something other than don't go. Sure. Okay. But the story was bogus, just so you know. But it's a story that we're told in corporations when we're sitting there, like, listening to some leader explain to us why it's important to have a diverse workforce. They always tell us this story. And so there's a bunch of us that over time within the company that I worked at started just wonder, like, well, they obviously must know by now that this story is fake, but they keep repeating it. And why? It's a little bit like the George Washington thing. They try to, like, explain how, well, we had a great first president because, father, I did not chop down, or, I chopped down that cherry tree, father. I'd be honest with you. Yeah, I did that. So George Washington was the president that was, the honest one that was forthright and said, yes, I did that. Admitted to what they did, kind of thing, right? It's such an honest person. But that story never happened either. But we're all told that story. We're in the single digits while we're in school, and then it's about time you turn 10 years old, kind of about the same time that they reveal that Santa Claus doesn't exist, that they tell you that whole George Washington story was bullshit. It's like, have these tiers of deception, I think, that we go through, guys. It's such a strange thing, American education. I don't know why we give it such power. We really do. We're giving it way too much power, this public education system that is seriously flawed. Because I want you to think about this lore that's told to us. Like as an entire country, we are fed this bullshit story. Extends far. You want to teach Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny to your kids? Fine. That's okay. You want to have that and have that be the thing that you reveal to them and go, sorry, we were just messing with you. Okay. But why does it have to exist within education involving our presidents? Why does it have to exist within education involving like leaders, and why do we have these tiers of deception that you get past it? Once you get past elementary school into junior high, you learn, oh shit, you mean like a whole bunch of those things you told me when I was like in elementary school was just completely false? Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just because you're all simple minded, and we got to find a way to make you understand. Don't worry about it. And then you get into college, and they start telling you things like, look, you were such a simple brain person and you weren't really paying a lot for, I mean, it's public education, so, a lot of what you learned back there in high school that wasn't like the basics like math and English or whatever else like that, it's mostly bullshit. Sorry. Yeah, all those history lessons that are like, now we're going to tell you what really happened. And then you get into college and you pay all that money, tens of thousands of dollars to get the real story, only to where you get to the level that I'm at now. And again, I didn't go to college and pay all that money for the education, but now I'm learning that a whole bunch of the people that do go and do that are also learning bullshit. But they're just paying a lot of money to do it, only to find out that, well, they're just every bit as unemployable as the rest of us. And I don't mean to laugh at you, those who did this. I'm just saying, like, that's kind of what winds up happening. Like, so, well, welcome to the suck. Welcome to America, the way things are going right now. I mean, this is how things are, but it's changing quickly. So, I don't want this. I don't want us to be like in lot, like, this sucks. It's horrible. No, no. Tonight, I'm gonna like be doing some serious deconstruction about how all this voodoo works. And so, since I've been going here a little while and we got about a dozen viewers, I'm just gonna go ahead and start getting into the material with the slides and everything. So, welcome everybody. I do appreciate you joining. This is going to be a good presentation, I think. I'm going to talk about two core things. So, number one, Lil Nas X, and then I'll be talking about the Chevy Chase Vegas vacation thing because, guys, it's super trippy what I'm going to show you. Once I show you the timestamps, I actually like review the footage for you so you can see it yourself and you can kind of go back and like, okay, that's not him just saying it. He's showing us here the timestamps and everything. So you're going to see something like pretty amazing. And then I'm going to show you how I've been going to like Lake Mead and discussing things involving Lake Mead for a long time, even before I discovered the whole connection to Chevy Chase, who again, guys, I've been doing articles on Chevy Chase and the possible genetic connection and all the other things with Henry Silva and myself. So there's a lot of things that are going on here, guys, that if you're not a regular viewer, then you might be a little bit, I'll have to get into some extra discussion for those who already know the storyline. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them because there may be some assumptions that I'm making about your understanding of my material. And since I'm seeing some new names in here that I don't recognize, I want to make sure that I'm explaining it correctly without it being like abstract. Okay. So to start off with, this one's more of a broad topic that most of you will like be able to relate to without having to know my material in advance. And that's the Lil Nas X shoe campaign. So I'm going to get that on the screen here. Hang on. All right. All right, so this is a Twitter post that I did, May 4th, 2022. So that was a while back. All right, I put shoes with human blood in their soul. It's not harmless marketing. It is industrial weaponized bioenergetics, blood in souls. And so I draw the correlation as far as like language and frequency of language. That's why I do this, folks, because repurposing of language has a purpose to it. It's not something that people do just simply to be clever. It's like, neurolinguistic programming. This is sort of an example of language corruption, repurposing, and NLP. People sometimes refer to neurolinguistic programming as NLP, where you take one word that sounds a little bit like another, and you're kind of going out of your way to confuse the brain a little bit to interpret one as the other, so that when somebody thinks insoles or the word souls, that they're having a repeated definitions also going on in the brain. So the purpose of having blood insoles, you have to think about it like the sole of the shoe holding blood contains part of the human soul, and then containing the human soul within the sole of the shoe is a big part of how these people do things within. How does that work? What am I trying to explain here? That's a frequency hack where you're taking a word or a perception of a word and it's changing the meaning into something that manifests into physical reality. Now, human to earth brainwave is a topic I've been trying to discuss more frequently in a positive sense on my channel. When I've been showing you guys, like, lately I've been doing the sunsets and showing you rainbows and things like that, because this is the same concept, guys. It's rainbows again are when, if you ask me, okay, the Schumann resonance is 7.83 hertz. Okay. And then human brainwave, if you look at this up on Wikipedia, and Robert Beck's research involving psychics, you'll see a common thread where people that are more intuitive, psychic in nature, they have a idle mode, which is to say that when they're not excessively in any one state, they're not excited, they're not sleeping, they're not any of it, they're just sort of like level. When they're in alpha, they tend to hover right between 7 to 8 hertz, which is pretty close to the Schumann resonance, the Earth resonance of 7.83 hertz. And so if you think about Earth brainwave and the people that are more intuitive on the Earth having a similar brainwave when they're idle. And by the way, guys, like intuitives and psychics, when they're idle, that's when they really get the power. Okay, that's when the flow of the energy really goes. If you watch the film The Fury by Brian De Palma, I've done an article on this. Maybe I'll show it to you here as part of this. That's actually probably a good idea. I should probably show that to you so we can explain this a little bit better, because that's a video that I've already done. Let me get that going here, because you need to see The Fury is a film by Brian De Palma that shows you how this process works in a way that's, I wish I could show you the video from it, folks. But the best thing I can tell you is, even if you're not a fan of Brian De Palma or you don't feel like watching the whole movie, The Fury, I will say, is not as explicit or as bloody as most of his movies. It doesn't have as I don't know. It's not as brutal as most of Brian De Palma movies, where you're like, ooh, like at a couple scenes or two. The Fury is mostly straightforward suspense thriller involving psychics. And it's basically Kirk Douglas is a CIA agent whose son is a psychokinetic like powerhouse. He has natural psychic ability. And there's this whole plot to like kidnap these children that are, or these as they're getting older, they're more like teenagers, to kidnap them and to hold them hostage for their abilities. And so the movie involves getting one person to help the other to retrieve their kid. The point is that in the opening scene, the way they test one of the kids, which is played by the actress Amy Irving, is this Paragon Institute that does psychic research, goes to this parochial school where she and a bunch of these rich kids are, and they have them all wear this headset that says, okay, I need you to blank everything out and wear this thing on your head. And what that's going to do is test the energy flow that occurs when you're in alpha brain state. And this is how we know how powerful of a psychic you are. So I want you to think about what I just said, okay? Because that's kind of like at the core of what our discussion is going to be. Thoughts become things. Thoughts literally, and I mean that, people abuse the word literally, but I'm explaining to you that quite literally, thoughts become things. And how? Through the process of bions that are generated. And these are something that actually have been measured under microscopes and everything, guys. So I'm not going to go like, there are these things called bions, man. They're really cool, and I know they're out there, like Aether. No, Aether, the biofield, orgone fields have been measured. They're measurable. You can measure the number of bions in a petri dish. You can do things that actually show that there is a psychoenergetic process, there is a life process that involves things that are, somewhat on the life force, what do you want to call them? They're like little amoebas or pods or whatever that float through the aether. And that when enough of them accumulate in the aether, they begin to form into something that's physical reality. And that's at the root of everything that actually becomes a physical structure. If it's this very hotel that I'm in right now, if it's the car outside, if it's the pavement that's on there, whatever, somebody thought of the road before the road went into physical manifestation. And so I would argue bions are always accumulating around us, okay, which is formed through bioplasma. And so getting people to agree on what to do with those bions merges them together and puts them into a physical structural reality that we all share in common. So hence, when you get a whole group of people to agree to build a building, then yeah, it's a visualization exercise, because the visualization manifests the plasma field into physical reality. I used to build cell towers, guys. I mean, cellular mobile masts, cellular towers, depending on where you're from. If you're in England or something like that, you call them masts. But that was my job. And so I had to think of it first. I assigned it a name, a number, it got a budget, all those things. Then we start talking about it. I tell everybody, hey, this is the idea. I share that idea with some other engineers that are as talented or more talented than me. And they go like, something, that sounds cool, but what about this? And they go like, and sometimes it improves what I've done, or sometimes it's even better or replaces what I've done. The point is that it begins with ideas that merge together, and then as they're accumulating more and more in the biofield as bioplasma, eventually those bions form into physical reality that you call sand, cement, building materials, nails, all of it, guys. But they're all beginning as plasma. They all begin as thoughts become things. Everything is. So this entire universe we exist in is a placebo. Somebody has fed us a sugar pill that we all agree on as physical reality. And so that's how we're forming it. So if you don't take what I'm saying at least seriously on some level, even if you disagree with me, I hope you'll take it to some degree of serious consideration. Otherwise, it has the same effect on you that like, this is why religion always warns of like denying the existence of evil. Malachi Martin talked about this. Don't deny the devil exists. What I'm telling you is that manipulation of this experience that I'm telling you is at the core of this Luciferian satanic principle that these people are practicing. They understand exactly what I'm telling you. And so they do things within physical reality, okay, that anchor us into something that feeds their concepts more resonant energy. And if they're Satanists, and if they're people that want to bring a physical Satan into physical reality, they will do things to bend the plasma field that feeds Satan energy, the concept of Satan as well as themselves. They want to feed themselves power if they're real Satanists. From what I understand about most Satanists that are really true to the core principles, that it's mostly about serving the self and has less to do with the horned devil concept. When you're getting into the whole horned concept deities, even the people that are into that very seldom are into little horned devil. They're more into Set, as a god, and they're into like channeling demons and summoning demons and feeding them energy and bringing them into physical manifestation through ritualistic magic, which they believe in. And if you don't understand it, then it's kind of at your peril. But at the same time, I'm saying, like, don't fear it, because that's kind of what they rely upon, is you focusing on them. When I share this material with you, I'm not saying like, don't run around going, oh my God, Lil Nas X is a Satanist and he has power. It's like, no. I don't think you guys would do that. You're too sophisticated. But most people, what I'm saying is like, they're not going to, if their initial, I think, exposure to this is like disbelief that it can even actually do something. And to me, that's probably the most damaging thing, because if you deny that these people can do something, then and especially if you're a person who's religious and more spiritual, then you're going to lack faith in your own ability to change the plasma field equally, because your belief in a creator and your belief in a higher power and your belief in just creation energy and love in general is what defeats this. And so the whole point is to create doubt and fear and trauma in a collective population, and then in tandem do things that draw energy to them and their symbols. And so what would be the purpose of a guy like Lil Nas X putting out a shoe that has blood inside it? So let's get deeper into that. Every rhythm programs blood and water via cymatics, which is physical matter. And so that's why I made sure to put, this is an example of Professor Emoto's research. Like when you actually think of a word like gratitude or love, or you actually play music that is harmonious and graceful in comparison to, like, death metal or hate metal, like you form perfectly symmetrical patterns like you see there in that diagram. Or here, this is cymatics, and those who are familiar, you may want to look up the word cymatics on YouTube and find this exact presentation. It's just about a 3 or 4 minute long presentation that just plays a whole bunch of different music patterns with the sand playing on top of the speaker, that vibrates. And it shows you the frequency of the music and the perfectly symmetrical pattern that it forms with the sand on top of the speaker. And so I'm suggesting to folks that everything you consume within the media cycle, everything you listen to on the radio, every announcer, all of these people are having the same effect on physical reality, and you are a conduit for them when you listen to them. So it's important that we consider our decisions carefully, like what we focus and concentrate on and what we feed our energy into, because the frequency of those people, they want broadcast. So what I'm saying is, when a guy like Ye gets on InfoWars and does all the crazy shit he does, it doesn't really, when you get down to it, guys, at the end of the day, his frequency is fed energy, because now everybody just constantly talks about him, and they're just gonna be saying those two letters. They're gonna be saying Kanye or Ye over and over again. Yay, 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 yay. And again, even just people saying yay feeds energy to Ye. Does that make sense? Even one of the reasons why they would make such a simple change, because now every time somebody says it, you actually it's trippy, guys. But they know these things, the ones that are really high level. And so I was kind of even wondering, the last couple of days, I'm like, is he doing something more Andy Kaufman and Discordian to make a point? Because again, the whole thing with the Nazis, America's been funding Ukraine, filled with the Azov battalion, who are openly Nazi and practicing pagan Nazi rituals left and right, and showing off black sun symbols left and right, and openly being Nazi, while the president over there runs around going but I'm Jewish. Oh my God, you guys, that people haven't seen to this whole deception is beyond, well, I think most people that watch this know it's a deception. But what the hell's going on with that more people haven't just figured out? Just what an obvious, there's something here with this parallel where a guy like Kanye is called out and banned from Twitter, right, for saying what he did. But if you think about it, what America's doing right now by sending billions to the Ukraine, it's the same thing as what Kanye was doing on InfoWars, but they're doing it in our name. They're running around going yay, Azov battalion Nazis, go kill all those people on the border and penalize them and punish them for being, wanting to speak a different language, or having a stronger loyalty to Russian culture. I mean, guys, okay, what if the same thing, let's use an example. What if, for example, one day in Canada, a decision was made that, what, we don't like these little French pansies over in Quebec always insisting on speaking French and everything like that. I think what we're going to do is show them that if they don't start speaking good Canadian English, we're going to give them a good spanking. Fuck France. Fuck the French. No, we're going over there and showing them something. And then the whole portion of Canada just starts to like go over to Quebec and just starts, doing like humiliating them and shelling them and bombing them and basically kind of going like, fuck you and your love of the French, man. We're going to destroy you for loving the French. You're Canadian assholes. You start acting like Canadians. Something like that is kind of what happened. I didn't mean to get into Ukraine type politics right now, but that's kind of like something like that. If you were trying to draw a parallel, let's like kind of be real here. So it's like, think about it. It's a little bit like, what if the French saw that going on in Canada and they were like, going, they cannot do that to our people. And they decided to go step in. Like, what would the rest of us really be able to say about that? We'd be a little bit like, yeah, but I mean, you guys went over there and just started like talking shit to them just because they speak French in that country. It's like, sure, it's a little whatever. I mean, we wondered why they were so loyal to France being part of Canada too, but you can't just go over there and start taping them to poles and spanking them and shit like that, because that's kind of what was going on. Those who don't understand Ukraine, guys, like there was Azov Nazis that were basically doing like public humiliation, like literally like pulling people's pants down, exposing their genitals and taping them to poles because they spoke Russian or were like this similar example to what I told you. There's like a region there that's close to the Russian border that has a similar thing going. They're more close to Russian culture. They speak Russian still. They're more loyal to Russian interests and things like that. And so there is this group of Nazis that are in Ukraine that have just basically just been constantly beating the shit out of them and going over there and bombing them and shellacking them and then always blaming Russia for everything, which is something that Nazis like to do. Whenever they're actually the ones that are the aggressors, they're always going like, look at them doing this to us. It's like, but Nazis are always deceiving people everywhere. So again, guys, sorry, I didn't mean to go. I probably lost a bunch of people on that one. Who knows? But I got to say what I got to say, though, guys. I mean, it is what it is. I got to be real about these things. There's some definite manipulation of the narrative relative to what's going on in that conflict is the best thing that I can tell you. And it needs to be discussed in a way that's a little bit more open and honest, and not oversimplifying it or spinning something where everybody just immediately says, well, if you want to be one of the cool people, you have to say that you support Ukraine. It's like, you guys don't even understand it. Like, that'd be like saying you have to stand with Canada, like in that example that I just told you about. Because the French are going to come over and liberate the people in Quebec, who the rest of Canada starts to beat the shit out of. You see what I'm saying, guys? It's like, think if that were what was going on, I don't want to oversimplify and say that that's it, but it's something along that level. It's way more serious than that, actually. Those who don't get it. And hey, I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be Mr. Sophisticated on the Ukraine issue, but I did kind of like get into like studying things involving Russia and understanding things relative to their culture a lot better than the average person would for a couple years there. And I was doing some things where I was reading some documents that were originally written in Russian and were translated to English and things like that as part of my research. And that just helped me gain a much greater respect and understanding of those people and that culture. And, the best thing I can tell you folks is like a lot of those people are being completely within our media cycle. They're trying to villainize the people of the country, even if you disagree with like Putin and his policies, like trying to make these people seem like they're all like horrible is really a bad thing to do, because they historically really love America. They love Americans, and they're always trying to like reach across the aisle to like work with us and do nice things with us and partner with us on space projects and other things. But like, America and more specifically Nazi interests within America that are gatekeepers to America, they're always trying to harm our relationship with them. And I know that from firsthand experience. I have an aunt that's blacklisted from Russia, I'll remind you. And I've noticed there's Nazi connections in our family, so I'll leave it at that. Again, guys, those who aren't familiar, I have an aunt that's a former Department of Justice attorney that is literally one of 4 people that has been blacklisted from Russia. So one of the reasons why I began to learn more about Russian culture and things relative to Russian-American relations is through understanding that I had a relative that's literally banned from Russia, and I wanted to understand why better. And in my personal understanding of the case, I learned that And I'm being straight up with you guys. Like when I researched it top down, my conclusion and what my personal opinion was that Russia was actually right and correct to make the decision against my aunt that they did. I believe that it was a justified decision. And if I were them and I were faced with something similar, I would probably do something along the same lines. Like, I think that they were right to do what they did. And I think they had reasons that aren't being discussed in America for doing it. And I'm one of the only people that has, and I'm not going to get deep into that topic tonight, except to say that you can always go back into my Justin Gabriel Cruise information sharing for concerned parties playlist on my channel. It's available to everybody. It's about 30 some clips that are mostly less than 10 minutes that explain all kinds of things involving like beyond energetics, guys. If you want to get deep into like what's wrong with America and hacks and infrastructure things and deep state things, that's the playlist to go to, but I'm focusing more on energetics. All right, on to that topic. But what I just was talking about, though, it's relevant to this topic here, because people are being fed messaging within the media cycle about that conflict in a very similar way, and it begins to form a belief, a structured belief. You understand what I'm saying, guys? Like when you repeat something over and over and over again, even when you know it's a lie and it's a recognizable lie, why would the media continue to do that when they know that less than 10% of America trusts them? That's like a study that's been done. Less than 10% of America believe the news. When less than 10% of America believe the news, then where the fuck are we? What is it doing except for programming reality? It is telling us fake stories to create discordant patterns of their selection. They change physical reality by getting together and saying lies and repetition, the same lies. They're making it up, you guys. And I know most of you know this, but I'm saying, like, go beyond what you know about them making it up. I'm telling you that they're not just spinning the narrative about the story. They're not like lying about how the story went. I'm telling you that some of these narratives involving like kidnappings and murders and like these like elite social like big trials and everything, especially between celebrities, fake, 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 fake. It is structural psychology. And the economies that are behind it, like Weinstein, what's really behind that? The whole Hollywood human trafficking thing. It all got covered up by the Weinstein thing. It all got covered up. The human trafficking aspect, the abuse networks, the mind control networks, all covered up. The sex cults covered up. Replaced with fake stories like Mark Rayner and Nexium. Fake. Part real, mostly fake. Again, because it acclimates you to expect certain outcomes. They got theirs, didn't they? No, they didn't actually. They didn't. Nobody got theirs. No. No, the real guilty parties did not not spend a single day in jail. They're still out there. They're still thriving. They're still running shit. You saw their buffers go to jail. You saw their puppets. You saw the front men, the lightning rods. Lightning rod is the best thing that you can actually, the best description of them is less puppet and more lightning rod. They really are there in case of a lightning strike, in case of something coming down and going to their narrative. That's going to be the thing that absorbs all of the blame, because the power families, the bloodlines, they don't want you to know who the hell they are. They hide behind their lightning rods. Like Elon Musk. He's a lightning rod. He's a lightning rod for the space program. He's a lightning rod for bogus electric car concepts that could be 10 times better. He's the lightning rod for tunneling concepts that actually work way better than his bogus concept does. They made him the figurehead of electronic payment systems with PayPal, e-loans, electronic loans, and his name is Elon. He was invented for PayPal, and his name is Elon. He's an actor. He was assigned to the family name. I just watched a movie called 1, 2, 3. I recommend it. guys. I'm going to put the title in here. If you really want to know what's going on, guys, I'm going to buy this movie because like it's really difficult to find it. It's an old film with Leon Oskin in it, coincidentally. Called One, Two. It's spelled exactly like this. It's actually very, very funny too. By Billy Wilder. Starring James Cagney and Leon Oskin. Okay, there's actually a whole scene in this film that involves them trying to like launder somebody's reputation by buying an elite bloodline's family name. James Cagney literally says like, we can't have them knowing this guy's a communist from, you know, East Berlin. He goes like, so he goes, can they have the Baron von Trausen name? He's like, when the Baron von Trausen name is sacred. Our bloodline has been passed along from very centuries. We have had a strict, you know, policy of only marrying into families of very strict breeding. We are only people who have distinction and merit. He goes, how about $10,000? And he goes like, where is my son? So it's like they'll sell their family name to the highest bidder. So suddenly once they've, and you start to wonder, did they get rich this way? I mean, is this like part of how they got rich? Was they just created this lore surrounding the name and they just started selling the name so people that wanted to seem, because you think about it, if people think you're wealthy and rich and you go to places where they serve the wealthy and rich, they tend to just cater to you and offer you things. Then it becomes something to where your life is suddenly easier because people think that they just give you things that you don't need because they expect that you're going to come back with all your millions and billions of dollars and spend more. So within that film, and sorry, Margie, I promise you I'm not making any reference to you. I have done extensive material on a man that is named Leon Oskin. I usually say Leon Oskin. He's an actor you may be familiar. He was he played he was on Hogan's Hero and he played a Nazi Burkhalter. He was General Burkhalter on Hogan's Heroes. That's what he's most known for, but he did a whole bunch of movies. And I've done a lot of like review of his entire career. Him and the actor Henry Silva. They both started around the same time, and they actually got their start in Hollywood on the exact same episode of the exact same TV series. Something I didn't even know before I started researching them. Again, cymatics and frequencies and the way things just merge based on DNA. Interesting, is it not? Because I believe I'm related to both people, and it was just concealed to me, just to be real with you guys. Like, that's one of those reasons why like I have a little bit of a split with certain family members, is because some of my information challenges their narrative. So I do think that I have a potential genetic connection to the actors Leon Oskin and Henry Silva. And so these are both guys that did a lot of these types of films and were in like, you know, Leon Oskin, I would say, was more in like, you know, classic films, you know, Bob Hope and, Bing Crosby films like Road to Bali. And he did a lot of like TV series episodes. He was on the Monkees TV series and My Favorite Martian. And he was on an episode of Different Strokes with, and here's what'll really trip you out, you guys. Leon Oskin, sorry to get way off topic here. He wasn't only on Different Strokes with like Arnold, you know, Gary Coleman, that show. The world don't move to the beat of just one drum. Oh, Cymatics, the beat of just one drum. Trippy. But Leon Oskin is a guest star in one episode of that, and he plays the ambassador to the Russian embassy. That's really trippy, you guys. And I've told you, I mean, I've said it to my audience, and I'll tell you again, like, I've written the Russian embassy before, just to basically distinguish between myself and my family, to make sure that they understand that, like, I'm a guy that would really like to partner on energetics projects and things of that nature, that where we discuss these types of things, you know, and build pyramids and do cool things like that. You know, that's the future that I would like to see us all working on together as nations and groups and people or whatever. But I felt like if I didn't distinguish myself, because it's really Russians that understand those fields best, you guys, like literally, like Americans don't get it like the Russians do. And so within my research, I reach a certain shelf where if I'm strictly have to stay in America and only get trained by people in America and only understand it through Americans, I'm going to be in a really bad place because they lie. I'm going to be real with you when it comes to bioenergetics and energetics research and everything involving what I'm talking about. The Americans will lie, 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 because they don't want anybody else to understand it. Whereas the Russians are all about, what can we tell you? How much can we share? What would you like to know? How does this, you want to know how this works? Let's do some huge experiments with how pyramidal structures affect human brainwave and structural reality. They're literally doing like entire experiments where they activate energy fields surrounding man-made pyramids that are built with huge crystals that are bigger than a person, like taller than a person size crystals, wider than a person and taller than me. Quartz crystals in the center of these pyramids that they built out in Tomsk, Russia. These people are doing serious science with bioenergetics. Here in America, they're doing stupid shit with like fiberglass structures and going like, but you can sense a different energy field in here, right? It's like, no, you can't. You're doing this, saying you believe it, right? But you're spinning people into la la land. Guys, I've bought into the narrative, so I apologize. Like, I've actually bought the orgonite shit. I've bought the cloud busters that are built by people that don't know what they're doing. And again, Wilhelm Reich did know what he was doing. Cloud busters do exist. They are a real concept. You can change weather with orgone fields. All the research that I'm doing is things that involve brainwave relative to ionospheric changes. And I'm studying that the best that I can with what limited equipment that I have. I think if we're really going to start to get serious about it, I'm going to have to understand certain concepts better involving barometric pressure and, extremely low frequency involving earth resonance and being able to take like actual like Geiger counter type readings of what earth resonance is and things like that. So I'm even still trying to get, to that level myself, but yeah, Just the Root. That's a good comment. So Just the Root said the partnership with Russia and the U.S. has a lot to do with paper clips and Black Project's magic they coordinate since they are jointly holding Romanov heirs hostage. Okay, so I don't know the whole thing on the Romanov heirs as much as you do. I mean, I know a little bit about that topic, but not like you seem to have a greater grasp on it. So but what I can tell you is that you have a good understanding of exactly why there's this sort of like there's still this sort of coordination between certain groups in Russia and America that are colluding to basically dismantle both narratives on both sides. And again, they had their own paperclip. I can't remember what they called it. Russia had a parallel project that was exactly like Operation Paperclip, where they brought Nazi scientists and influence leaders from the Nazi Party into Russia. Like we brought in Werner von Braun and who was that? There's three guys, Goering and another one. They were the main ones that we know about because they wound up at NASA and ran the NASA program. And the fact that people don't hear, okay, guys, you understand it, like what little cooperation that we do have between America and Russia is the space program. Does that not tell you everything? Where do you suppose that, like what she just said here, Just the Root, the partnership with Russia and the US has a lot to do with paper clips and the Black Project's magic. Okay, the Black Project's magic is NASA. It's the International Space Station. That's the voodoo they're all playing on everybody. They're saying like, we did all that up there. Okay, we did, seriously. And guess what? Russia wanted to beat the US and the US wanted to beat Russia when it came to the space program. So they were both willing to lie and deceive about the results. And again, America just kind of went out of their way to show something like on a television screen that I think we all now know that even if they did go for real, what we probably saw was not the actual image of what actually happened any more than anybody else brought back the real deal. And so what the real Nazi magic, if you ask me, is it's just getting us to invest billions and billions and billions of dollars into things that they keep pointing up at the sky, telling us are there and exist, when in all actuality, they function far differently than we've been told. And they're operating from a different plateau and a different place altogether. And I think it's possible that satellites actually exist. I'm not suggesting that they couldn't or don't, but I don't believe that as many are up there as they claim. I don't think that there's the hundreds of them. I don't believe that Elon Musk has put as many up there as he claims. I think that if it was the way that they say it is, they would be crashing into each other and raining space junk all over the freaking place. And I think it's curious that we never see a picture of one taking picture of all the other ones from the sky. How come we don't have tons and tons of images of satellites taking pictures of the Earth, and there's all kinds of other satellites in the way of the satellites that are covering the Earth? That's another reason why I'm wanting to know. So yeah, again, so Cosmic Care Bear said that they think the space landing is real and the video footage they showed was made in a studio. That's, again, I tend to believe that Nazis actually have figured out how to get beyond that Van Allen belt. Okay. I think they do have the technology. I think they have figured it out, but they're not showing us. They're going to go do it themselves amongst each other. I think that there's cosmonauts in Russia that have partnered with like the American Nazis here that have done things together up there. And I think they even have some Chinese partners. Because guys, there's a mirror of nearly all the fakery that they claim to be doing up there together. There's a mirror of what you find going on down here where the people that are partnering together to destabilize our different nations and our relationships amongst each other. And there's this common thread of they control satellite communication, distribution of information, and a common thread to having connections to World War II leftovers via the Nazi Party and where they were distributed to America and Russia. And then they took on projects that partnered with their who's up there? I mean, who's up in the International Space Station when you really get down to it? And so when you start looking at my information lately about who I say is destabilizing America, I mean, who have I been telling you? That it's you got paperclip Nazi bloodlines that use cartels and gangs that they basically run and organize and manage through the FBI and the CIA. I'm getting into way deeper topics, guys. I'm supposed to be talking about Lil Nas X here, and I'm already 57 minutes in. I always do this. I don't mean to. Yeah. So that's all I'm trying to say, guys, is like they can do it, but I don't think they're going to show us the results. And they may not have the ability to show us the results. They may, at the time that they were doing it, they may not have had the ability to actually film it, but they could have actually had the ability to do it. So, and what I mean by film it, you know, like actually transmit a broadcast. I mean, you got to understand, like things like that. They were really trying to show that America was stronger than Russia. We were in a Cold War with them, and what was driving that Cold War? I mean, you think about that. Like these groups, just they all like they're these little small number of people, like 1,000 here, 3,000 there, and they just take over the sciences and the defense part of the sciences within these different countries that are major superpowers, and they just go like, I bet you they're doing that over there. We need to make one of these big missiles. And they're like, I bet you they're doing that over there. We need to make one of these missiles. I bet you they're doing this. And like the same people that have the same common interest are telling the whole population and the militaries in both countries like they're bad, make more of these weapons, make more of these guns, make more of these missiles, make more of these jets. Nazis, Nazis. And I get that there's something beyond Nazis that they are. I get it. Then you've got like Thules, you got Armon Order, you got all kinds of occult societies that and then you keep going back even before then. The Khazarian Mafia. And who are they really? So we can keep going back generation after generation. So sorry if I seem like I kind of get into Nazism excessively. It's just because that's their latest brand, and they're not ready to let go of it. They're only like half let go of the Nazi branding. They're still kind of in it. You know, it still has a lot of energy, so they still tap into it. All right. So speaking of that, guys, sorry I just got on a way off long detour here, but cymatics. Okay. So repetition of phraseologies and words or whatever else like that bring things into physical manifestation. That's right. I was going to show you that fury thing. So let me show that before we get into this. All right. It's under energetics. I won't play the entire thing. I'm just going to show you the beginning of this. It's called Energetics number 7. The Science of De Palma's The Fury, Brainwaves, EEG. Okay, building off of Brian De Palma's The Fury, I did a presentation. All right. The reason why I'm showing you this is so that I'm trying to. All right. I want people to understand, like those who don't, or just want a refresher in. So you have cycles of brainwave, right? Hertz cycles. 1 hertz does this 1 up and down, right? And that your brain emits these measurable cycles of hertz at a rate roughly the same while you're in idle mode and you're not thinking of anything as the Schumann resonance of the earth. And so what I believe is going on is that it's that emission that's pushing out from us through our biofield, and the bions that we are actually programming information into those bions that when they emit from our bodies, they go into the biofield and they go off and find other bions that have similar frequencies, that it's really a frequency thing, that even if people aren't thinking the same thing, that they could still have merging ideas because the frequencies merge just because of common words. And that's why neurolinguistic programming is such a powerful tool for the dark workers. They take a good concept and they can repurpose it. They can steal the frequency or ride the frequency of something good by making a little slight change to the way you perceive the way it's said. And it steers it into a different definition. Okay, so this is Energetic 7. I'm going to play the beginning where they just talk about the test and how they show the brainwave aspect of Amy Irving's character, and then I'll be back here in just a few minutes. Yesterday on this, and I think I just got so swept up in what was going on with all the informational parts and the magnetic resonance aspect of the research that I kind of missed discussing the test between Amy Irving and the Paragon Institute that kind of opens early in the film. So basically, a part of the Fury is that I think that people really need to sort of focus on is that it was made in 1972, right? So they were being a little bit more open in Hollywood about this research being done. You know, they talked about these types of site research facilities going out and trying to find people that had these abilities. They didn't mind talking about it out in the open as much, you know. So kind of have to ask yourself what happened there. And in the movie, they even kind of discuss it that there's kind of this creepy guy that seems to, you know, go out looking for like a finder, similar to what the Finders cult did. They go out looking for these people and they kind of stalk them and look for them, and then they report back to, you know, one of these like central agencies that looks for these types of people to exploit their abilities. And so that's kind of the path that the story takes in the movie. But I didn't want to talk as much about, you know, that part without discussing the science of it and why these people are so interested in this as an ability. So what is actually happening in the test that's going on between Amy Irving and Carrie Snodgrass in the movie? Well, the technology is currently available. You can buy it sometimes for less than $100 to do some basic testing, and it's called EEG, electroencephalograph type equipment. It's usually marketed as a gimmick or a toy. Mattel sells it, for example. They have different types of things that they do with it, just to control, like you know, like remote control helicopters or like a rolling ball on the floor type thing with your thought forms. And but there is a science that can be explored further with it that involves, you know, things involving bioplasma, chi, orgone, the positive orgone radiation, deadly orgone radiation, etheric energy, that type of things that involves, you know, the category of bioplasma and bioenergetics. I think it's been kind of distracted though because they want people to think of it more as a toy and less as something serious, you know, and that'll keep it the serious research limited to a select group, you know. But I really do think that since there's some basic tools available that seem to be relatively inexpensive, that we should at least be looking into these things in a more
focus level, even if we don't have access to some serious equipment like, the one you see in one of these diagrams I have here. There's like the medical grade equipment, but you can also get these cheaper headsets that, function sort of like a toy, but still take real measurements. But how does that work, right? Well, getting back to it, Amy Irving, she places this headset on. They ask her to imagine a blank movie screen to block out all outside stimuli as much as possible, to only focus on the movie screen. Like, you could practice it now if you wanted to. You just basically just kind of like, you don't close your eyes, you just kind of like stare straight forward, you just kind of block everything out. And as you're doing this and you fall deeper into this, I don't know, it's not necessarily a hypnotic state, but as you go deeper into this alpha state, you can actually feel the energy kind of just start to go, kind of pulls down a little bit. I've done this, I've practiced this many times myself. I know I'm capable of reaching alpha pretty easily, just through meditation and practice. So I just never had an opportunity to actually measure it on my own. So that's the type of thing that I'm interested in doing now. I just don't have the funding, even just to buy the basic equipment. So I'll get there, though, not a problem. But anyways, the point is that by doing this, as she's going into alpha, her brain is emitting a low volt signal, right? And then that translates to a very specific measurement. So you got to think of it in terms of both frequency and amplitude. Okay, so there's an amplitude to the frequency that she's generating by having that headset on her forehead there. And so that disc, that cup that's on her forehead, it's actually measuring the frequency, so that waveform, what it looks like. So as she's going into alpha state, how do the bursts, how do the waveforms get measured? And then it's actually measuring the amplitude. So how much like electrical signal is she generating when she goes into alpha state. See, and this is where I think that they kind of hide some of the research as far as different blood groups and different types of people.
Excuse me, hang on real quick here. I want to interrupt this very briefly. And though, so this is where, if you look at the material here on the screen, I start getting deeper into like giving you specific numbers about like how many hertz and what the levels of electricity are. And I hope that compels you to like take this more seriously. Like, these are science-based concepts involving human brainwave and electrical emissions. So, that, look, there's a scene in The Matrix. I really wish I could get away with playing anything on Warner Brothers, but I can't. That's one studio that I know will absolutely copyright strike me and knock my channel offline. I'm warning you guys. I will warn you about Warner Brothers. Nearly every person that's a gifted or a very good presenter on YouTube that winds up using a Warner Brothers clip on any level in a live presentation, you will get shut down. That's the studio that comes after you and goes straight for your jugular. They won't just like do a copyright, complaint. They will say that you're doing deceptive practices or doing disinformation or medical disinformation or racist things or something of that nature that'll basically get you nearly shut offline. So you've got to be very, very careful. And I would just tell you folks, like, be extremely conscientious and cautious if you're going to use anything from Warner Brothers. I'm telling you, it's happened while I was in the stream. I played a little bit of footage that was modified from The Shining. And I was doing a really good live stream. And somebody asked me to do this one clip from The Shining and do this explanation about it. And it shut down the stream like right in the middle of it. So yeah, there you go. But yeah, I'm just warning you, brothers and sisters, about Warner Brothers. If you do live streams, don't use their footage if you want your live stream to stay online. I'm not trying to scare you away from something. There's a way you can get around it. Take stills. If you have the video clip up, scroll through it. Don't play any of the audio. And if you must play some of the audio, make sure it's obscured and like barely recognizable inside your clip so it can't get tagged. And even then, they're really good at doing the screening for looking for it. And it really boggles my mind, you guys, because there's some clips that I've been seeing that have been on the internet for like over a decade that use way more Warner Brothers footage than anything that I've ever done. And they're still online. Some of them I was even just playing from YouTube into my own stream. So why are those clips online and why was I getting shut off? But see, again, guys, it's very selective. So it depends on the topics that you're covering and how you're doing it and why you're doing it. So anyways, yeah. So the reason why I wanted you to know about this is because when you're thinking about what I'm explaining to you, go and watch that clip from The Matrix where um, Neo is being given all that information from Morpheus, played by Larry Fishburne. Okay. And Lawrence Fishburne, sorry, I didn't even call him Larry. Lawrence Fishburne's character, Morpheus, is telling him about how all human beings emit a certain amount of electricity and that we're being harvested for for that electricity and that bioenergy. I think you need to like take that a little bit seriously. It's a science fiction explanation and it's a science fiction film, but it does have a lot of valuable lessons in structural reality, even if it's all done in a sort of over the top, Hollywood way. There's still things you can call from it and learnings that I hope that, for as flawed of a work as it has in different angles and its intentions and things like that, there's some good things that are going on there. Is the best thing I can tell you as far as how it is able to visualize that for people. So
on what they mean to psychic intuition, psi ability. I think what you'll probably find if you start doing more research is that people that are like Rh negative and similar types of blood groups, like people that are like universal donor blood types, like O negative, I think, or those types of things, you'll find that there's something inside involving the iron content and iron oxides inside the hemoglobin processing inside their blood that I think has something to do with what makes them unique. And it's not just that they can do those things. I think oftentimes the reason why they're more intuitive or have psi ability is just because of that metal content. It's really not like it should be considered anything sort of esoteric in the classic sense. It's really just chemistry and alchemy in a way. It's really just that a person, just like an antenna in a cell tower, you have copper as a kind of a conductor inside the coaxial cable. People, when they have different metals inside their bloodstream, can probably just be stronger conductors just by virtue of that content. And then when you consider that there's coils inside there, and then through the modern processing of foods and things like that, we have more shaved metals and things and metal particulates being introduced into our foodstuffs. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, it just happens. So there's just more of these things that are introducing metals into our bloodstream and into our environment. And then if you think about it, that sort of creates like an amplified grid to the people that have certain bloodlines. It's a hypothesis, but it's a measurable one. So as long as there's cheap equipment out there, I think that there's ways that we can integrate this into research.
you see what I'm saying with what I'm discussing there with blood groups, guys, and hemoglobin levels in blood. I mean, so electromagnetic fields can entrain upon the metals inside your blood. And so you have to start thinking about, I've done a lot of articles in that energetic series. Part 5 discusses ritual sacrifice. And it also gets into this whole concept of, what are the metals that are contained within your blood? What are the metal-based processes? And then what common things are inside your blood that are common to what's inside the earth and what's inside sand? And, again, what's in a soil sample relative to what's inside your blood. Because when we're talking about why they practice sacrifice, why they would want to spill blood in a location from a person as part of a ritual, well, they're feeding a frequency into it. What's a frequency? Well, it's this. That's a measured frequency on a spectrum analyzer. So what I'm suggesting to you folks is that an incantation within ritualistic magic, okay, when you look at this, now this is not that, but it could look the same way. What this is just the measurement of a radio frequency. But say this was an audio sample. Like I could speak like blah, 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 and into a spectrum analyzer that does audio, and it would go, every time my voice goes, right? It would go up, down, up, down, up, down. Okay. On the spectrum analyzer, the frequency of the voice creates the pattern, and the pattern bends physical reality. So the up-down patterning, the frequency through which I modulate my voice, sends a different message to your auditory perception. So what I say matters because you will perceive the word via the frequency. And so the more times you can place a frequency into the collective consciousness, the more the frequency gains influence and amplitude. This frequency, see these, like, if you look over here, that's a signal strength, right, in dBm. So on the left, That's how strong it is. So every time you see this go up, that's the signal getting stronger. Every time it's down here, it's the signal getting weaker. And what I would suggest to you is that an entertainer that gets people to focus and concentrate on. So, like, say Kanye is not very relevant. Say he's the green bar down here right now because no one is thinking of Ye. No one's thinking about Kanye. But suddenly he starts saying Nazis, Nazis, Nazis. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad. Everybody's talking about Ye. So now he goes from being at neg 100 and neg 90 to being like way up here at neg 60 dBm. Whoa, that's radio frequency signal. So these aren't the same concepts, guys. I don't mean to be crossing them excessively to confuse people, but yeah, like if this was radio frequency, down here would be a low frequency, and as far as the power goes, it would be a low signal, and up here would be a very strong signal. So what I'm suggesting to you is good, bad, or indifferent, as long as what Kanye West does gets you to think and focus and concentrate on Kanye, whether you say his name out loud or not, the frequency of his name looks like this. Not exactly like this, but let's say this is the frequency of Ye. See, he's just trying to make this be way up here because when it's down here, nobody can hear him. When it's up here, the entire world can see him. The entire world can see his frequency. They're repeating his frequency. And so, like Trump used to say all the time, guys, but long before he ever thought of running for president, he was just that rich guy that used to go around being sort of like bold and rude and, kind of funny. People just sort of like, they kind of liked that he was a little bit pompous and arrogant. He had that kind of thing going on, right? And again, I didn't really hate the guy, but I wasn't ever necessarily a fan, I just was kind of indifferent to him by and large. I was like, yeah, he's that rich guy that brags a lot, That's kind of the way I thought of him. But he used to say all the time, like a lot of people have in history, but I think he was one of the ones that popularized it mostly in the 80s and 90s, and that all publicity is good publicity. There is no such thing as bad publicity. And I used to hear him say it over and over again. It's all good publicity. As long as they're thinking about you, it's good. So that's what the Lil Nas X thing is about. When I talk about frequency, when I'm talking about this, see what Lil Nas X is doing with this whole thing with his shoes is he's adding frequency, he's adding resonant frequency to concepts involving Satan and Satanism. He wants these images involving the pentagram, the devil, all these demonic images. He wants these things to be the anchor. He wants this culture, the blood inside the shoe sole. Yes, guys, this happened. This exists. This happened in reality. This wasn't just something somebody kind of did as a joke. This artist put this out for people to consume and purchase. And so I just, I put, if somebody wants me to listen to this artist's song over and over again in repetition, I'm going to find another place to be. It's not just the song on the radio. The blood shoes is a binding ritual that bridges Satan as a spiritual concept, thoughts into physical reality, things. So these people are trying to manifest the concepts into physical reality. So again, guys, it's a little bit like, the whole Mickey Mouse Fantasia thing's a useful metaphor, but it doesn't work exactly like that. But it kind of does when it comes to Satanism or Christianity or whatever your belief system is. The more they can put things out into the collective consciousness and then have a song associated with it that plays back in your head. If whether you love him or hate him, if this man can get you to think of one of his songs, I don't encourage you, by the way, to even go, if you don't know who he is, don't go listen to his music right now. I don't recommend doing it. I'm glad that I can't think of a song of his right now, quite frankly. And I hope not. Don't nobody tell me one. I don't even want a loop of it playing in my head, because that's the whole point. How many times, guys, has a song loop played in your mind that you desperately wanted gone? But, again, you don't want to like the song, or maybe, again, I'm not suggesting that his songs are pleasing to the ear, What I'm saying though is that sometimes a song just gets stuck in a loop in your head, some shitty Spice Girls song or Ace of Base or I don't know, something like that that you really don't want inside your head. It just gets in there because somebody just played it in some restaurant or some grocery store and you're just like, oh shit. But that's a frequency. It's a loop of a frequency that stays inside, right? And so these people do this very consciously. They want the images placed out there. I'm not trying to feed it, guys. I'm just showing this to you as briefly as I can, just to give you a quick, understanding of it. And so if you'll notice on the back of the shoe, or on the side of the shoe, he puts Luke 10:18, and he said unto them, I beheld Satan as lightning fall from heaven. I put it's the goal. I hypothesize it's the goal of Lil Nas X using frequency, sound, vibration as base, and energy as his amplified influence to bring Satan from a purely spiritual concept into physical plane via black mass ritual. And so you'll notice there on the side of the shoe, there's blood inside the sole here. That's what you're seeing there, that red color. It's not dye. That's actually a clear tube that they've placed blood inside. See how that over here, it actually is sloshing. That's the empty part of the sole. And that's where the blood is like going towards the front. And that's real human blood, according to the marketers. I said, if this resonates with you, check out a documentary I did on the science of sacrifice from my energetic series. It discusses the connection between metals and blood and why ritual murder is used by occult groups. Blood to soil, metals transfer, thoughts equal things. I think I left it at that. And again, I've played most of what I was going to play for you in this article as far as that brainwave test, but I'm going to keep it plain so you can see more about what she actually does in the whole brainwave test before I completely cut it off. I didn't mean to interrupt it this long or whatever, guys, but that's mostly the crux of the Lil Nas X article. And I'm hoping that I've explained it am I doing a decent job at least? Like, you can give me some feedback if I'm not, if there's something I can do better. Is it making sense? Those who didn't understand it or are benefiting from hearing this, am I explaining the concept well enough or do you think that if you were new to this material, for example, that I'm doing it well enough? Because I'm hoping that I get this right, guys. I don't want this just to be something I'm just babbling about here. That everything that we're surrounded by is a huge field of plasma. And that we're constantly changing what that plasma physically translates to within our perceived reality through common frequencies that are oscillating. And then they create something called bions that form into the aether that structure into physical reality, because we agree what a bion equals once it assembles into the etheric field and then rains down into the physical plane. But it always begins in the spiritual plane first. All of it. So this is, I think, what is, to me, like, this is sort of what's nice about, I guess you could say, religion. What I like about it as a core is that there seems to be an effort to help people understand that it all begins with spirituality. Because it does. Where it goes from there, I think, is where most religions tend to go wrong, because then it always tries to bring something back into the individual or the self or to some other group that it doesn't belong to or whatever it is, instead of it just being about having a greater awareness and understanding what we're all doing with this shared field of plasma. Yeah, let me keep playing this because I have something else I want to share with you about the plasma field and bending it and things like that after this. And then I'm going to talk about the Chevy Chase thing, because I want this. That's super interesting, guys. I'm going to get into that pretty quickly here. So let me finish this, and then I'll talk about the Chevy Chase thing. Then I'll loop back into the whole timelines and our perceived reality and what we're doing with this whole plasma field and how it's working. Because I think I'm actually understanding this, guys, like in a real way that I can actually make others understand. Like I could actually sit down for like a week or so, and by the end of it, have enough slides put together and enough awareness to where a person who didn't understand it at all would understand it by the end of a week. And that's what I'm trying to get to. I think if more people get this, then it'll solve a lot of problems. Like part of it is like, I think we're always trying to attack it at the level of, like defeating the deception in every story that comes out. But that's like, guys, like you can't keep up with that. Like that's trying to like keep up with a fire hose when you've got like a sippy straw to drink it with, and they're aiming a fire hose of disinformation at you, and you're just like, I'll get all these lies. You know, you got this little straw. Sorry, that looked like I was smoking something. No, that wasn't what I was tending to do, guys. Being like a straw, you know, like you're sitting here like you got this huge fire hose or this massive, you know, whatever, like, you know, a Hoover Dam size, you know, water flow coming your way, and you're trying to like mop it up with like a hand sized towel or like a sippy straw or something like that. I mean, when in all actuality, getting more people to understand the concept will prevent the dam from breaking, or the solution will will prevent the event from even happening. That'll whatever, right? Sorry guys, because there literally is an event with Lake Mead and breaking dams, and so I'm not trying to be like metaphoric to be cryptic or something like that. There's some seriously weird shit going on with entertainment, Hoover Dam, and prediction things. Okay. Maybe I should have saved the Chevy Chase thing for when I was ready to talk about The Godfather more and Mario Puzo and the Superman series, but there's a connection between all of this. It's, again, guys, now I'm starting to get really weird with the way I'm attaching different concepts together, but I promise you there's connections. I'll put it to you this way. Mario Puzo wrote The Godfather, right? He's mainly known for doing mafia things, the Godfather series primarily. And the only other thing he did in Hollywood that was super relevant was writing Superman 1 and 2. Kind of strange, right? That also starred Marlon Brando as the father figure. So Marlon Brando was the Godfather, you know, Vito Corleone. Before it was Michael Corleone, Vito ran the family, and that was Marlon Brando. And then again, within Superman, what is his name? El Gerard, or I can't remember. I don't know. I can't ever remember Superman. Jarrell, something like that. But anyways, Marlon Brando plays Superman's father, and so when when he passes on, the only one who can take on the bloodline legacy of the family is Superman, because the rest of the family's been made extinct. So they send him off as the little seed into Earth to be there with amongst the mortals and everything else like that, because that'll be the only place he can survive when their planet goes into extinction. Kind of an interesting like parallel though, that they would have Mario Puzo, the guy mostly known for just knowing things inside about the mafia, also write Superman 1 and 2, and then pretty much nothing else. Then his career pretty much just goes right off the map. Strange. All right. So yeah, I'm going to play the rest of this. Then I'll get into the whole Chevy Chase, Lake Mead, Hoover Dam thing, guys, because that's one of these things, guys, where I can attach numbers and data to it in ways that'll make you kind of go like, all right, when you show it to somebody, they're going to go like, okay, I have to tell you, like somebody probably put that there for a reason, or that's got to be something. You know, I give you things like that you can really kind of go like, whoa, these aren't things that are like, huh? No, you'll really get it when I show you the Chevy Chase thing. It'll be like, man, that's super trippy. Because there's a event that happened in physical reality that matches something that he did in the movie, right down to there being the timestamps and everything. And it's very weird. So, and nobody talks about it. And even after I brought it up, still nobody on the internet's willing to talk about it, but they're willing to talk about all sorts of other concepts involving like, you see all the references to 9/11 and all these movies? all somebody has to do is breathe 9/11 or show a number 9 and a number 11 and some different abstract concept, and they'll immediately draw an association to it. But I'm like, when you see what I show you in Vegas Vacation, you're going to be like, whoa. All right. So hold on for that, guys. It's coming.
13 things that involve orgone. And then, how the brain reaches different states and what type of electrical signals can be generated, because there really are actual concepts involved with this. Okay. So let me just read this because I typed something out ahead of time. I try not to do that if I can help it, but I put brainwaves are generally categorized as each one typically representing expected behavioral states, and in some people, varying degrees of amplitude as well as frequency changes. So, I just talked about this, but what that means to say is that not only they're measuring that waveform as you see it like on the graph there, but they can actually tell you by virtue of like millivolts or microvolts, depending on what type of equipment's being used, the actual level of the amplitude. And so that amplitude, the higher it is, the faster it moves the train. And that's really what's going on inside that diagram. So the deeper she reads alpha states, the more millivolts are generated, and the millivolts that are generated from that headset through her alpha state goes into the train tracks, and then that powers the train and moves around. And that's really all it is. And so once you understand that that's a real thing, and that they were even testing it like that in 1972 out in the open, even though it was a fictional Paragon Institute, it must tell you something about what they know today, because the research that I've been doing seems to indicate that whoever was doing this research, groups like SAIC, Science Applications International Corporation, and SRI, SAIC had sole ownership over this site research, and they were doing quite a bit of it. And I can read you some of their things, but I'll get to that in a second. I first want to just cover what is happening. Not only is she getting an amplitude of electricity inside that signal, but she's also generating a frequency, right? And that's where you start getting into what is an alpha wave, what is a beta wave, what is a gamma wave. So it just depends on the group that's doing the measurement, but they define, like an alpha wave will be 8 to 13 hertz, which can be defined as, 1 cycle per second, so is a hertz. Okay. So if you have 8 hertz, then effectively you have 8 of those, complete cycles of a waveform going up, and one continuous wave like that goes up and down. That's a cycle, and then that's 8 of those within 1 second. Just think of it in terms of that, right? So if you're an alpha, you're between 8 to 13 of those cycles per second, 8 to 13 hertz. Beta, you're 16 to 31 hertz. Gamma, you're 32 to 100 hertz, etc. Okay, without getting too deep into that. So the reason why that's relevant is because as I've been doing more research, I've gone onto the CIA.gov's FOIA library. There's an enormous amount of documentation that got put out. I think it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago. There was just a flood of documents that had been previously only available if you actually physically went to the library, that somebody went there and actually scanned in everything and placed it on the official.
Yeah, you might want to, here, I'll take the captions off, but those of you, you might want to take a screenshot of this one. Those of you who have like a smartphone you're looking at it on, or if you got a camera out or something like that. This is a really good slide to have to show people things about brainwave manipulation, and just to show just how much this lab, SAIC, Science Applications International Corporation, was doing relative to human brainwave manipulation and body electricity manipulation and structural reality manipulation, because that's what this translates to. They could sit there and act like they were just doing these sort of like basic stimuli experiments, but no. If you really think about what this translates to, they're actually showing how they can interrupt brainwave to create malformed and deformed structural reality states. Alpha desynchronization. So again, when your brain is synchronized, obviously you're working properly. So alpha desync would be to throw you off of your alpha wave. If you're in a relaxed state and you're able to like meditate, these are methodologies they were studying to interrupt that. Well, gee, thank you, SAIC. But it says it's an established neurological fact that a brain in idle generates alpha waves at approximately 10 hertz, and that these waves diminish significantly whenever the brain's idle state is interrupted by external stimuli. So, again, guys, here you are, you're chilling out and everything like that. Your brain is going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hertz per second, right? Roughly. Okay, according to this diagram. That's most people. Intuitives and psychics tend to be closer to 7 to 8 hertz. That's according to Robert Beck's research and others. EEG experiments conducted by Science Applications International Corporation seems to have demonstrated for the first time in anomalous cognition research that reception of an anomalous cognition signal by the brain does in fact interrupt the alpha rhythm in the same manner as would any other external signal. This is called event-related desynchronization. The potential value added of this experimental result is the potential use of event-related desynchronization to improve AC functioning, analogous to the method in which biofeedback can be used to train a person to alter his physiological responses. So it's almost like they're acting like you could train or fine-tune your ability to make your ability to stay synchronized stronger by if I'm reading that correctly, it's almost like they're going like, we need to study how to like jam people's brain waves so we could train people how to like not get their brain waves jammed. Yeah, that's why we're doing it. Not just like to run around fucking with people's brains. No, this is Science Applications International Corporation, a company that's run, guys, ladies and gentlemen, this company that is behind this document that you're seeing here is now today being run by a lady named Nazi King. I am not joking. So SAIC, who is behind Stargate research, excuse me, energetics, psychic, well, viewing is being run by CEO named I just want that up there on the screen for a bit so you can kind of understand why America is having some of the problems that they are today. Because we've got an internal problem, guys. Got an internal problem. And it's going to be hard to get along with the rest of the world until this problem is solved right here. Big, big problem that nobody talks about. And guys, it's it's one of those things. It's like a barometer for me. Like I wait for somebody to mention SAIC and Leidos. And if it's like a name that never, ever, 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 ever they allow ever, ever, ever on their platform, and they won't even entertain it being discussed, so they seem to block you from discussing it, I know they're a shill that works for them. And you're going to find that the vast majority of the people that are promoted on YouTube relative to these topics that I'm discussing are SAIC, Leidos, their spinoff company. It's shills from those organizations that have been amplified in their influence on the internet to where you'll never understand this if you listen to them. They're going to get you to a certain level, like you'll almost understand it, but they're going to put you into la la land that right when you're about ready to get it. And it's important that more people understand it, like in a genuine way, because the more people they get this, the more they'll consciously begin to think about what they're doing with the biofield, because it's a spiritual concept. Okay, but if you're a non-spiritual person, you're a person who's been atheist or agnostic most of your life, then you might miss that you need to also, as one of these people that was atheist, agnostic, or whatever, you also need to begin being spiritual. You need to understand spirituality if you're going to defeat the problem. If you care about our country, if you care about the world, yeah. I mean, I'm both. I care about this country and I care about the world. I want the best outcome for us as a country. I want us to be a sovereign nation of free people, with sovereign minds. But I want us to get along with other people in a genuine way. where we don't mess with other people's affairs excessively. We stay out of them because America has its own messes to clean up for a while. We don't have a lot of business getting involved in other people's affairs. We got a lot of problems to fix at home. And that's why Nazis are always put in charge of military analysis and are always telling our military they're filled with non-Nazis, mostly non-Nazis, are being directed by Nazis on where to go to war constantly. And they get lied to over and over again. And then the liars get apologized to for by the Nazi media. And who does not see it over and over again? Us. Understand my puns? They're not even intended to be. They just wind up being that way. Sorry, guys, but I mean, this like shit like this needs to be seen and discussed. This is reality. No joke, guys. And then you may want to look into this article, Washington's $8 billion shadow. And then you'll see this little section about the CEO, Robert Baester. Okay, guys, this is who's running military analysis. This who has a huge amount of control over the internet. Oh, nice. Suddenly I'm not allowed to look at the article, huh? There we go. Okay. Sorry, I thought they were trying to block me. This is a very powerful company. Let's see here. There it is. Baester's close associates within SEICs were a succession of young men known as aides de camp. They were usually handsome, well-educated, intelligent, with a facility for numbers and a willingness to perform personal tasks for their boss. This is the CEO of SEIC who managed all this Stargate psychic research that I'm explaining to you. All this documentation that I'm reading to you from was about 90% managed by SEIC, where my brother worked between 1993 to 1999, by the way. Full disclosure, guys, my brother Joaquin, Joe, he worked for this company while this project was active. Stargate. 1995 is when it was shut down. He was there between 93 and 99. Baester, oh, by the way, he was handsome, well-educated, and intelligent with a facility for numbers back in the 90s. Let me put it that way. Baester was an ardent sailor, and in the summertime, he liked to spend afternoons cruising the waters off San Diego aboard his yacht in the company of these young men. George Wilson, who once headed SEIC's public relations operation. Are you shitting me? You guys, what the hell? Every time I go to read it, it's just I get a pop-up. Okay, whatever. All right. George Wilson, who once headed SEIC's public relations operation, has stated in a legal proceeding that the young man provided a variety of personal services for Bayester, including using Science Applications International Corporation's equipment to make copies of porno movies that Bayester would watch aboard his boat. When Bayester traveled on business, he often took one of his aides de camp with him and asked his secretary to arrange for them to stay in the same hotel room. This, according to the secretary's courtroom testimony. Courtroom testimony. This was all in courtroom testimony. Wilson said in a deposition that one of the young men he knew who slept in the same room with Bayester on these trips told him that he did not like doing it, but that it was, quote, part of traveling with Bayester. Some of the young aides de camp went on to become executives at SEIC. Oh, I bet they did. Bernice King testified that Bayester had a name for his young assistants. He called them his baby boys. When asked about these assertions, which surfaced in a sex discrimination case, Bayester declined to comment on any particulars, saying, quote, although I cannot address the specific points you raised from court testimony, I will say that during this trial, a number of very personal accusations were leveled against me that are not accurate. Yeah, guys, so like, I told you I asked my mother, like, why she hid, like, where her father was, who was like molested like tons of children. She had his whereabouts. She knew where he was for like decades and didn't say anything. So I was like, why didn't you do that? When did you get his address? How come you didn't say anything? I just asked more importantly, I said, when did you get this man's address? And she just said, who knows? So that's kind of what you see the technique, you guys, they'll never answer the question. And if you put them in an environment where you let them give you an answer like that, and then it all just is like, then you walk away, then they'll keep doing it. Do you understand? People are allowing my mother to say that to the whole world. This is not an internal thing in my family. I'm just going to let you guys understand that, not to get into this topic, but something like that involves people far beyond our family. You can't just sit there and go, who knows? Any more than this guy could just kind of like go, whatever. But see, they normalize this. These articles get put out in repetition to where eventually we start to think, well, I guess that's just something a CEO can do. Anyways, I needed to show you that so you knew where this document originates from. Okay, guys. So, I didn't mean to like get deep into the history of that company and go super dark into personal family history and shit like that. But it's that I have a family member that was in this organization. They run all this psychic research. This organization does. I have all these different family members that are super close to all these things. I'm never like given like, the problem is, guys, I'm trying to like have a career at some point in time where I can actually study some of these things seriously. And they've tainted my entire universe because I'm reputationally surrounded by people that have questionable histories relative to these companies, and they'll never answer my questions or be held accountable. And because I've been near them or been family members of theirs, it's one of those sort of guilt by association things. So I'm trying to distinguish myself, and these people are never held accountable for shit that they do. And I'm trying to do this like in a real way where I want people to be awake and understand it and like actually know how it's being used against them. Who do you suppose are the ones that are keeping it a secret from you, hiding it from you, and using it against you, more importantly? Because I know where they live and breathe. And believe me, they practiced on me my whole fucking life. So I know how they do it. Excuse me, guys, for getting personal. Just some days, man, I'm telling you, like, I want this shit to be done. I want it to be understood by people to where like they know like what's really up. And I started researching all this psychic things and going like, wait a minute, this all ties back to the lab that my brother was at when he first started his career. What? Yeah, my mind was blown. I didn't know it was that deep. I just didn't. And when I approached him about it, it's always been like, whatever, no, I don't know, whatever, don't know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. It's like, come on, man. This is too much documentation for you to just keep like going like, what up, baby bro? You got potential, man. It's like, come on, dude. You can't even say that shit anymore. It's like, this is so like, there's something that leads back to this lab that's very definitive, and it involves Nazi connections to Nazi technology, which is why they feel comfortable throwing themselves out with a puppet CEO named Nazi. Right down to having a freaking CEO named Nazi. You want to talk about using frequency and they even named their CEO Nazi, you guys. I mean, that is language corruption. That's adding power to their brand 101. The company that is controlling nearly every aspect of information technology within the military, the NSA, the FBI, the CIA is SAIC. They also did all this psychic research. So don't you guys understand that it is the very height of energy manipulation to be secretly running and pulling the strings on every single aspect of our perceptions behind the scenes, and to have a fake CEO named Nazi? Because there is your clue. And it's not even a clue. They're just telling you straight up who the fuck they are. And get over the race thing, guys. Everybody get over it. My name is Cruz. Should it matter to you? I'm probably German, Italian, and Spanish Basque or something like that. I don't even know if that, like, sure, I think we have some Mexican lineage. We got relatives down there. So, from the sense of having Mexican culture integrated, sure. But are we mestizos? No, but we can blend in as them. Ah, that's been the game, guys. German, Italian Nazis can go all over the world and blend in as Arabs. They can blend in as Mexicans. They can blend in as Greeks. They can blend in as Middle Easterners. They can blend in as French. They can blend in as, you just got to have a little bit of that olive complexive skin, depending on how much dominant German traits you have over dominant Italian traits. Did you get more of the Moorish blood, or did you get the other kind? Nazis are all over the place, blending in as every race. And some of them are those races. They're not just faking it. Some really are. They got some of the lineage. But it doesn't matter anymore, guys. It really just doesn't. Yeah, be proud of what you are. That's all cool. I think that's all good. I think it's good to have cultural identity. But stop letting it be the end all be all, and letting it be like a thing that makes you be like, well, I hate that person for that, and I hate them for being this. It's like, it's so worthless to feel that way. You know, if you want to be that way, fine, but be alone. And don't get me wrong, guys, I'm not getting along with everybody from every group right now. I'm not saying this is some sort of kumbaya. No, man, there's a lot of shit going on right now where they're causing race relation problems. That's one of the reasons why I'm saying this. It's like, don't take the bait. Don't let them try to weaponize information to make you hate another person, to where you're incentivized to go and do something over somebody just because of that. Nazis. Fucking Nazis. Nazis. I'm going to keep putting this on the screen over and over again. I want you to go to their freaking website and read it for yourself. And sorry to whoever was in my chat, like from like a month or so ago, who was like going, that doesn't look like Nazi to me. That doesn't sound like Nazi. I'm like, it doesn't? They're like, doesn't it sound like king? That sounds like the words Nazi king, like the king of the Nazis, the emperor of the Nazis. That would be like saying Hitler. But see, even Hitler wasn't the real emperor. Even Hitler wasn't the real leader of the Nazi party. Not really. Again, they're always buffer characters. The Nazis mastered that system right down to Hitler. Hitler wasn't really the guy. I don't personally think that. Again, he was just the guy that they could exploit. He was on meth. He had occult belief systems. He was all freaky on some shit. Real easy to get guys like that to go, kill everybody. I hate all the Jews. Yeah, I mean, it's not a difficult thing to get them to believe things. But I think he was a hateful buffer character for a larger value system that they were trying to like manipulate people through. Again, the whole point is just to create death and destruction and to terraform, and you get people to hate one another over false beliefs. Now, this company positioned itself over the internet and all of the media environment. I mean, there's almost nothing they don't touch within telecommunications and IP addresses and domains. So you need to remember that when you're looking things up on the internet. You're always talking to the Wizard of Nazi if you're in America. And these are the people that North Korea'd our internet. They North Korea'd your cell phone. They North Korea'd your home phone. They North Korea'd all your satellite communications. They've got control over all of it. And they are the wizard behind the curtain. And they are run by Nazi kings. All right, I'm done off. I'm going to get off my SAIC high horse here now that you all understand where this research comes from. Yes, these are the kind of people that think about how to run around jamming people's brainwaves and fucking with their heads. Yeah, guys. So when my brother goes, no, Gabe, you're just making things up. It's like, no, a company that's got a CEO named Nazi King and is trolling us at this level, yeah, they go around jamming brainwaves. They run around frying people with X-ray. Yeah, they're doing it. Yeah, they're doing it. Look it up, guys. You mean to go find Leidos and how many different X-ray portable X-ray machines they have? My own brother designed a portable X-ray machine. Right, big bro? You want to talk to the world about that? There's a reason why you don't want me having any media influence, man. This whole family's going to have to answer a lot of fucking questions if I ever gain any influence. And guys, if you're on the opposition side, you may want to think about that. If you oppose what they're doing, maybe think about what I'm telling you. Because I can get them to have to answer questions that they've never had to answer. And you need to think about that because I want them to answer them more than anybody. And if they have this, if they give the rest of the world the same bullshit answers they've given me, the rest of the world's going to go, no, we're going to go find the truth there, assholes. And I'll be like, go do it. Go, go, go. What do you need help with? Because I've had to sit back here while people go like, they couldn't be that influential and powerful. I'm like, oh, you just don't know how they did it. Guys, I should be testifying at international court right now. The FBI won't even listen to me in an earnest way. They told me to submit my information to a database at a Starbucks. I tried to sit down with a guy at the FBI for 2 hours, and he just like acted like I was Alex Jones. I didn't even use my Alex Jones voice. He asked me about Sandy Hook. Literally, the FBI agent actually asked me about Sandy Hook. So you kind of know where they were going with that. I mean, that was always designed to like make anybody who knew what I know look like Alex Jones. And that was a set them up, knock it down like narrative so that anybody who brought that up would always risk feeling like they would be banned from the media environment like Alex Jones and not allowed to speak again and get sued for millions of dollars and be liable, blah, blah, blah. I mean, again, just because he said some shit about the reality of what happened out there, guys, everybody knows this shit's being faked. And the reason why that happened that way was to make you, this is what I've said this in my live presentations over and over again. It's structural psychology. It's a way to make you all get scared of doing something. You see what happens? You see what happens, Lebowski? This is what happens. This is what happens, Lebowski. It's just to sit there and teach you a lesson there. It's like give somebody a public lashing so that, you know, Julian Assange. I think it's the same shit. Look, is his causes worth fighting for? Yeah. But is he real? I think that people like that, they roll out when they just have no other way to prevent the release of the information. And then whoever becomes the gatekeeper of it, they punish publicly in front of everybody so that no one ever wants to be the next Julian Assange. You see what I'm saying? Because I promise you, like, a lot of the information that I have, like, documentation on even would, like, rival anything on WikiLeaks, but it just, like, the media just simply ignores it. I mean, seriously, like, right now I got 15 viewers. And that's fine. I mean, I'm glad you're here. I think you're all cool. I like having the small, because I can actually see people in the chat and respond to them. I've been in here when it's been like 200 or 300. I can't keep up with it. It's insane. So I kind of like that there's like this size of an audience, but But guys, like the level of information that I reveal in the average stream is like so far beyond what the average person does. And I've done it over and over again for years. Like one or two of my streams, I promise you, is like way more. It usually holds more information in the like a month or two of QAnon drops. But still, everybody wants a puzzle. They want something that has like something that is a common frequency that they're already used to. And so, if you expose them to information that's new, no matter how corroborative or real it is, like I got documentation, I've gone to places and reported from where they actually happened. Guys, like when I tell you about the abuse networks from when I was a child, like I've actually gone out to Bothell, Washington, where my grandfather molested all the kids and reported from the neighborhood at the corner where he lived, where he told me explicit stories of children he molested. I went out there as an adult, back to the scene of the crime, and stood right in front of the houses and said, "This is where the man did it." And it's all been unresolved. There's been no resolution. There's been no victims of his that ever got justice that lived in this neighborhood. And that doesn't get more attention? Don't you understand that, like, that's how like damning that is to our media environment? How damning that is to anybody that pretends they care about child abuse or defending children that have been abused? These are decades that have gone on now with no resolution, and this man has just gotten away and done it. And they hit him. And these people are powerful because they're hiding all these other secrets connected to Hollywood bloodlines and all the way they got their influence. That's what I'm going to get into next. You know, I discussed the Lil Nas X thing, the frequency thing. You guys get it, right? Brainwave, blood, hemoglobin, earth frequency, human frequency. Okay. So I think we've got that settled. And I didn't mean to get into all my personal shit here on this and everything, guys, but it's relevant. If I get into SEIC, I start getting into all the family things because it all connects to my family, guys. And it's frustrating as shit that I've talked about this ad nauseum for hours and hours, day after day. And I've been to FBI offices, and I guys, like, for those of you who think I'm a shill for them, let me explain something to you. Definitely not. We have one agency we can go to in this country for federal jurisdiction, and it's the fucking FBI. So we have to make them do their fucking jobs. Get it? Does everybody get that? I can't get my family into the place where they have to be held accountable for what they've done historically if the FBI won't do their fucking job. And they won't. Because my aunt, who's blacklisted from Russia, was a Department of Justice attorney for the cybercrime division in Seattle. And even though she's been gone for a decade now, the influence is still there. By the way, I'll remind you, she retired the same time as two guys named Blackstone and Westinghouse. Oh, I know what you're thinking. Aren't those company names some very specifically very powerful company names? Yeah, they are. Yeah, she just happened to work with two guys who had those last names, and they just happened to retire the same time as her. In case you think we're living in reality. See, I'm telling you that you should be suspect of that narrative. That sounds like bullshit. I'm suspect of that narrative. I'm wondering if she's retiring the same time as two people who I think are just buffer characters. If they are buffer characters and their names are Westinghouse, perhaps one of the largest providers of nuclear infrastructure for the last however many decades. They got purchased by somebody else, so they've been under different names now. But I promise you, you go to nearly any nuclear installation in Western nations, especially in the United States, and you're going to see great big W's stamped on all the different nuclear things. Westinghouse. But they're also a big part of our infrastructure involving just, home appliances in general, And it just so happens that the abuser in my family was a Westinghouse employee. James J. Pettigrew, the guy that I told you about that molested all the kids, he was a Westinghouse employee. So you're going to tell me that my auntie that retired the same day as a guy named West. Okay, I'm just going to leave that on that, so we can all just, But let's just say that it seems to be an ecosystem for certain people in certain powerful positions to protect people like James Pettigrew, who was let go in the 80s, went down to Mexico, even though he had confessed to molesting pretty close to like 100 kids, somewhere in that neighborhood. And this powerful family with all this infrastructure influence and government positions and all this ability for all these years watched as that man went on down to Mexico and just kept on doing what he always did. And you got to wonder, what the fuck is my family made of? Sorry, I'm going to leave it at that. Because I'm obviously made of something different, because I actually say something and do something. And their message to me for the last 5 or 6 years has been, shut up. Get out. Shut up. That's not for you guys. That's for the family. Not all of you, because I got lots of relatives that I think are beautiful people and that don't really know what the rest have done. So no offense to you guys. I love you. I know you're trying to do the right thing and you're wanting to understand it. I hope you are. I hope you'll dig deeper into what I'm saying, because it's not bullshit. I hope you'll ask them why they won't answer these questions. I hope people in my family who care about this issue, is a challenge for those. If your name is Cruz or Pettigrew or the other Silvas or anything else like that, I would like you to challenge Rudy and Penny, Diane, with these questions. What happened to James J. Pettigrew, the child molester, father of hers? Why was he not held accountable for molesting countless children that they knew? Some cases, they actually knew the people that he molested. They were very close to them. Why were excuses made, and why was testimony provided on his behalf that he was not a child molester when they knew he was? Just ask him those questions and then leave it at that. And if you're not willing to, that's okay. But you're not just to have disdain for me and to shut me out and to treat me like the black sheep. You should be doing that to them, and I should be still welcome. And I'm not. And that's wrong, because I'm going on how many years now with no fucking family. I don't get to go to the events because I brought up the uncomfortable topics. On to that, let's talk about Chevy Chase. All right, let's see here. All right. King Fredo. Sorry, guys, those who don't see, because it's just funny because I'm talking about my family. So it's like I was like, all right, so let's talk about the next part. Then Fred goes like, let's, and I look down and it says King Fredo, so it just makes me laugh because it's like that whole thing. I even did a thing when I was at the fish plant where I was. Do you see that when I did the fish thing with Michael Corleone? Let me show that to you really quick because it's kind of funny. You'll appreciate this, Fred, if you didn't see it. It's only a minute. I have a whole playlist of the Codfather series here, so I know I'm going way off topic here, but here Michael Corleone confronts his half brother Fredo, so you guys know what I'm talking about.
Fredo, I've been shapeshifted to Don. You know Pop handed it off to me. I'm smart. I can do things. Why can't I run the family? Dad put me in charge and you know it. Broke my heart, Fredo.
Godfather, it's me, Carter Fontaine.
All right. I won't bore you with a bunch of my Connor. Okay, we'll get on to the thing here with Chevy Chase. All right. So explosion at Hoover Dam in Nevada. July 19th. This happened this year, 2019, guys. So this was tripping me out a little bit because I've been like talking about this scene in Chevy Chase's Vegas Vacation from the National Lampoon Vacation series. Those familiar. Chevy Chase was an actor. If you're not from my generation, he was more from popular in the 70s, 80s, and into the 90s a little bit. Did a lot of classic comedies, and one of them, or a lot of them, were the vacation films. There was Vacation, European Vacation, and then Christmas Vacation was the third one. Then the fourth one was Vegas Vacation. And in Vegas Vacation, basically he just takes the whole family out to Las Vegas, and they wind up going on a tour of the Hoover Dam. And so what I thought was kind of interesting is, if you look at this thing, this was a clip from disclosed.tv, explosion at the Hoover Dam in Nevada. And I want you to take a really close look at the exact part of Hoover Dam that this clip is taken at here. So notice this is the wall that looks down from the dam, and then that's the side panel right there where you can see all the different power facilities. And there's a fire right there, okay? Now notice that. This is going to trip you out, guys, if I've never shown this to you, man. If you've never seen my Twitter, this is like really, really mind-blowing, I think. So I told people, like, I've recently done a series of articles on Lake Mead and Hoover Dam. It's a strange coincidence, right? Because I've actually, and again, if you notice, guys, here in this article, let's see, I posted, let me see when this was done.
I just wanted to share something with you that I discovered with what's called a meridian arc that is about a little over 5,400 nautical miles from the Altai Pyramid in Russia.
All right, so this one I posted on, where's the date? Come on. March 27th, 2022. All right. So it was before, guys, this whole thing I did on Lake Mead and the Altai Pyramid, and you can see in my footage here, that's Lake Mead where the Hoover Dam is right there. And I'm doing this whole article on bioenergetics and alignments between a pyramid in Russia and Lake Mead where the Hoover Dam is. And this was all long before this incident happened, you guys, out there in Nevada. Now let's go back here to the Twitter thread. And so that's the...
My goodness, something's just blown up. Something has just blown up.
Yep. Folks, get your video on that. There's just been an incident here.
All right, so you see that. You see that I did that article back in March. And then this incident in Lake Mead happens like a few months later, right? July 19th, okay? Now here's my thread on Vegas Vacation. Okay, in the film Vegas Vacation at 33 minutes and 33 seconds, guys. Now remember, I'm big into this 33.33 degree angle that I've seen all across the world, that I can show you multiple examples of alignments that use 33.33. Or sometimes it's 303.33 or 333.33 or 330.33. The point is it's always a repetition of 33 or of threes and nothing else. Or zeros and threes, more to the point. Clark Griswold, played by Chevy Chase, nearly accidentally blows up the Hoover Dam dangling from the power cable at 33 minutes and 39 seconds, where the power facility that blew up is visible. Okay. So this is one of the reasons why I put here that, there is something that's going on relevant to timelines, you guys, and our ability to perceive reality, because I want you to look here at this scene and take a quick look at the exact close-ups of it. Now, there's the timestamp, guys. 33 minutes and 33 seconds. And I can even show you, I can put the film up on my screen right now and scroll through the video so you can see the whole thing without actually getting a copyright strike. So that's one clip of a timestamp where you see the scene beginning, 33 minutes, 33 seconds. That's Clark, Chevy Chase. And then you see here, 33 minutes, 39 seconds. That is him dangling from the power cable wire. And what is that behind him? That's the exact power facility that you see blowing up on July 19th. Is it not? Is it not? There it is. That's the wall that's up against the rocks. Now let's go scroll back. Look. It's the same wall. It's the exact same wall. There's the rock. There's the power facility. That's Clark dangling on a power cable that overlooks this exact place that gets blown up in 2022. Look. That's him dangling. That's where the power blows up right there. It's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now let's count how many deep in that it happens on the video footage. See how many pillars there are?
Folks, get your video on that. There's just been an incident here.
My goodness, someone's just blown up.
So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right where the explosion is. Am I right or am I right? Scroll down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is where the explosion happens in 2022. This is Clark Griswold, Chevy Chase, dangling above that cable. The scene begins 33 minutes, 33 seconds. He is seen right there by the power facility that blows up. Right there. So, what's that about? I mean, it's something, guys. So again, it doesn't mean it was planned and it doesn't mean it was deliberate, but it's something. Don't tell me that that means nothing at all. It has to mean something. And not just a regular synchronicity. There's something else that explains it relevant to timelines, timeline manipulation, or I don't know, something within that category. Or programming reality. I don't know. Guys, I mean, I was discovering this like all over again because I sometimes come back to these films and review them. So that's what made it trippy. Like the event happened and then I watched the film and I'm like, holy shit. Wait a second. Clark isn't just anywhere in that scene. That's exactly where that facility just blew up. I'm still like, I don't know how more people aren't blown away by this. That blows my mind. Maybe I oversold it. I don't know, man. That's one of those things where, like, to me, like, I was like, and the people that I explained it to one-on-one were just like, whoa, dude. Like, even that, between that and the Lil Nas X thing, their minds were blown. And so that's why I was like, okay, I should probably do a live presentation on that. But like, you guys understand like the Lil Nas X thing too, like what's going on there with the Schumann resonance? If it doesn't, like, let me get back to that topic really quick because these things are related. I'll give you an example of why I think the Lil Nas X thing and putting the blood in the shoes is like a thing. I do have a person that I'm related to, okay, that several years ago revealed something to me about them. Now, they told me that year that they used to be a Freemason, and they said that they received an education in computer science in their country of origin from the Freemasons back in the 70s, like they paid for it, and that they were no longer a Freemason today. Okay. But this person understands a lot about these like sort of esoteric concepts, and you can tell they just sort of keep it to themselves. And one of the things I've observed about them is they do something that's nearly ritualistic on a daily basis, where they make themselves their breakfast, and they go out there in the front yard and they rock back and forth on their bare feet on their yard, where on the blades of grass, and they just kind of like lightly just kind of like, just kind of like just sit there and feel the blades of the grass on the arches of their feet while they just have their breakfast. And that's something that they do regularly. So something to take into consideration when you're thinking about what does earth resonance do relative to your internal plasma fields. If you are a conduit of earth resonance, then what he's doing makes sense. He's actually reducing any interruption through the matter of the materials inside the soles of his shoes. And he's having a direct relationship between what is going on with his bions, what he's focused and concentrated on, and what he's thinking about. And he's actually amplifying his bions by doing whatever meditations he's going through that morning, whatever he's thinking about that day. Maybe he just wants to be more influential and a cooler guy. And he just sits there and thinking, I'm a cool guy. I'm influential. I'm a cool guy. People love me. I'm a great guy. And he just thinks about his name. That's all he's got to do, really. And then earth resonance amplifies it. See, so what you focus and concentrate on in a moment like that is really important. If he goes out there that morning, he thinks to himself, he can't pay for this. He's not going to be able to take care of that. He doesn't know what's going to happen there. If he's only thinking about stress and trauma and things he can't control, then he will amplify those messages through his bions into the bionosphere or into the ionosphere, and he'll start to manifest things that are more negative. So I'm just suggesting to you that what that guy does, it has a lot of value. It's actually something that I'm like that he shared. He didn't state to me why he did it. He just said it's this thing he does it in the morning. He didn't say like, I do it to amplify my influence. No, he just said that he just does it for his health. It just feels good. And he does this for that reason or that reason. And I was like, wow. But you see, there's a connection between what he's doing with that morning thing, what he probably learned from being in the Freemasons about amplifying influence and being on energy grids and energy lines. And so I'm sharing this with you guys because I do believe there's people that are close to me that are quite benevolent that really do want you to know. Okay. And I'm sorry, the best thing I can tell you, those of you who are suspect, look, I'm not going to sit here and apologize forever. I can't help that I've got some pretty malevolent people that were surrounding me since I was born. I've been surrounded by some, and they're pretty horrible. But God bless the person that gave this to me as like a metaphor for me to tap into a little bit as something that I now understand. And I'll share it with you. Somebody that had to like kind of disconnect from me because I wasn't the most positive personality and influence in their life at the time. And I'm glad that, again, I needed somebody to sort of like, I needed to learn that. I need to have a hard lesson learned. But she said to me that, that she's felt like while she knew me, that it was a little bit like she was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and that I was a little bit like Angel before I knew like what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like if you guys understand the character arc of Buffy and Angel, Buffy likes Angel. Like they're attracted to one another, but Angel comes from a family of vampires, and he has that within his lineage, and that's what he was surrounded by or whatever, so that's what he comes from. But there is a point where he wants to like do away with the vampires, and so he can't be with Buffy, but he wants to be a person that helps her in her quest to like eliminate these malevolent vampires that are like sapping off of everybody on the earth, right? And so it even spun into a whole series called Angel, where he has his own television series, and he basically plays like a one of the fallen angels that has a detective agency in Los Angeles where he just takes on cases and tries to save people. But before he gets to that point, Buffy has to have all these different battles with him, and has to go through all the different ways of like convincing, fighting the internal part of him that's still bonded or has the trauma binding or whatever to his family through the vampirism. And again, guys, I'm not a vampire. I don't, I'm not a blood sucker. I'm not a blood drinker or anything else like that. I'm not going to tell you that they are, but it's a metaphor for like that you don't have to be what some other folks that have done these things, like you don't have to be associated with it, but it would be foolish for you not to understand that being surrounded by them had no influence over your character or your ability to like manage through relationships and daily things. You see what I'm saying? There's programming, and you get harm from the programming. Sometimes it sometimes affects your ability to sort of be a fully realized human being. You don't understand where your flaws are. You don't even get the psychological things that are going on that you have yet to get past. And somebody who has gotten past it, who has dealt with it sometimes, who's exposed to a person like you, they might see it. They go like, wow, I can see all this potential in this person. Like they're so close, but it's like they still don't know. They really just don't even know yet. And I think that's kind of what this person was trying to explain to me. Like, I still didn't even know what I had come from yet. I didn't even realize that I was Angel. I didn't even know. You understand? Like, I didn't even know that some of the character traits and the behavioral traits that I had at that time were because I was sort of in this sort of, I was surrounded by certain types of behaviors, and I accepted certain ways of, like mental conditioning or whatever as norms or ways of expressing disapproval or whatever else like that, you know? So, again, yeah, you get a little bit older, you get more mature, you figure things out a little bit. Sure. Yeah. So if people in the chat here are figuring it out, I get it. So again, guys, I'm not beating myself up over it or anything else like that. I'm not a bad person. I wasn't really horrible to anybody. It's just that I didn't always understand like the subtle things within my behaviors that were damaging to my interpersonal relationships, especially when it came to women. That I had like a form of like, yeah, I guess you could a subtle form of passive aggressiveness that I was like not that hyper, that wasn't that aware of. You know what I mean? But now that I can look back on it and go like, oh my God, dude, I wish I could just slap that dude around and like shake him and say like, stop doing that. That's so stupid. But you can't reverse, you can't go back in time the way you want to, unless you're Superman and it's Superman 2, or and you go and keep Lois from dying, Lots going on in those Superman movies, guys. I'm gonna have to do a whole like thing on the connection. Like that's gonna be the weirdest topic that I do, is when I tell everybody, all right, here's the connection between Superman and the Godfather, but it's there. But we'll save that one for another time. But what I just showed you though, like, does this start to make sense a little bit about what might be going on? Because I don't even fully understand it, y'all. I'm just letting you know, like, I don't even know exactly what I just showed you, except that I've seen another pattern. And are you guys familiar? Maybe you're not, maybe you are, and maybe you're not. If you're not, I'll show it to you really quick. Have you seen my article? Have most people you seen my article on the Altai pyramid in Russia and how it has a connection to the Lake Mead thing? Because I think that's a part of this pattern too. See, because what that article is about is how there's these two things that have existed for however many thousands of years or hundreds of years or whatever it is. I don't know how long Lake Mead has existed in its current shape or form, and I don't know how long the Altai pyramid in Russia has existed in its current form. What I do know is that in this very precise alignment, okay, what is a pyramid in Russia, when you go a precise percentage of miles around the circumference of the earth, 25%. Okay, so a quarter arc around the earth will get you from Russia. So say you go from going from one pole to the other is about 10,800 miles estimate, roughly. Okay, just to simplify things. And then a quarter arc or half of that distance is about 5,400 miles. What I found and located was this alignment where the pyramid in Russia aims at a precise angle via one of its alignments on the pyramid. And when you follow that alignment exactly all the way around the earth, at exactly the halfway point, which is a quarter arc, 25%, a quarter around the earth, from Russia, you wind up at Lake Mead. And what is the shape of a pyramid, an up pyramid that rises from the earth and is, again, like the flux capacitor in Back to the Future, it's a three-sided pyramid. So again, it goes boom, boom, Well, it's like that in Russia. And then when you go go around the earth like this, it becomes a lake at an inverse in Las Vegas. Exactly where the pyramid points at. So the pyramid is like saying, hey, everybody, way the hell over there on the other side of the world is another me, but it's an inverse. And it's a geographic thing. And when I found this, that's when I was like, to me, these are like discoveries that I don't understand why. Am I misunderstanding something? Because more people should be like super impressed by this, not by me, but by the fact that these things exist. And it's almost like somebody's trying to convince me that these things aren't actually kind of miraculous. And I know they are, because the shit that people talk about on YouTube half the time isn't nearly as incredible as like half the shit I showed you tonight. All the Back to the Future like decrypts that I see and things like that, I'm telling you, like I've seen way more compelling things in my research than I typically see on YouTube, but this doesn't hardly get anybody's focus or attention. So it says to me that I actually have the truth in my pocket, because I know when they let millions of people see it, then it has some degree of misinformation, or it doesn't understand that it's like not the truth. But to me, this is super compelling. These are real life events that happen and manifested in physical reality. So either somebody's planning it and whatever, and you can accept that, fine. But one connects to the other thing somehow. I don't buy that there's zero connection. And I also don't think it's as simple as those dirty Freemasons. No, guys, it's not like that. That's definitely not where I'm going with it. And again, I don't know if they're good or bad let me put it this way, guys. I do think that there are very benevolent Freemasons. I think there are Nazi Freemasons. And I think that there are a whole bunch of other splinter groups that identify as Freemasons, and they have different agendas. And some conspire to do horrible things, and some conspire to do really wonderful things. And that's where I leave it. So my heart is open to anybody that uses their influence and their ability, especially if they understand energetics, to manifest realities that balance things out and make them more positive. I at least praise them for their efforts instead of being malevolent and horrible. Even if it's a misguided effort to do something positive, it's still better than people that are just like, going out of their way to make the world an effed up place. But I'll show you really quick the article on the Altai Pyramid. Yeah, it's only 11 minutes, guys. I mean, because I feel like there's something that's going on here, because everything that we exist in is oscillating fields of frequency and a universal plasma field. So what we're looking for really here is patterns that represent themselves as numbers sometimes. And so 33.33 really is just a frequency pattern that can manifest in all sorts of different ways. You know what I'm saying? And I guess that just in this particular case, that's where it got stamped. It just happened to land there. I don't know. That could have been intentional. It might have been something that was my tendency, though, is that Hollywood Freemasons definitely apply 33 markers when it's their intention to highlight an event. Now, some people assume automatically that means they're planning to do something like, I bet you the Freemasons blew up that dam. No, I don't think it's as simple as that. I think that it could be that in some cases. Don't get me wrong. I'm not ruling that out. I'm not that blind. I'm saying that in some cases it could be because some of these groups do have timeline prediction technology. And it's a matter of whether or not you believe the predictions are actually realistic. And then once you do think whether or not they're true or false or whatever, then you're having to play the whole structural psychology, plasma bending judgment game by warning people, are you in fact manifesting the event? That's the big question mark. Do you risk manifesting an event you warn people about by getting a whole group of people to focus and concentrate on it? If some guy that everybody listens to, about earthquakes, suddenly one day says, oh my God, there's going to be a 10.0 in all of California, everybody run and duck. Well, it might cause a psychoenergetic event where brain waves change to such a state of panic that the brain wave, the combination of millivolts and the common cycle of raised brain wave that changes the frequency of earth resonance, because suddenly everybody's this calm and all of a sudden there's this millivolt spike and a huge panic in the population. Psychoenergetic event becomes geomagnetic event. See, they're related. That's why weather modification and mind control are always like in the same category. All right. So what I'm about to show you, think of it more in terms of like, what is the long play here? What is like beyond timelines? Like what has existed before our current media cycle involving these types of structures and megalithic sites? Because the Altai pyramid goes back for centuries. So why was it built this way, or was it built, or did it naturally occur? Because there's certain researchers that are over in Russia that believe these are just parts of ancient history that are unrecognized and not they're not explored intentionally because certain people wish to hide and conceal their relevance, because they do things that they would seek to like make people like not even think of as relevant. They don't want you to know Altai pyramid is an energy generator, or that is a megalithic site that actually does something. It's broadcasting something. Just as much as a cell tower does, or a radio broadcast tower, or a satellite transmits a message, the Altai pyramid is transmitting a geomagnetic reference point that can be seen into the ionosphere by who? Well, now we're in a whole nother existential question. I'm not prepared to answer that tonight. And I'm not going to get into UFO land. But there's obviously something out there beyond us that I think is true. Whether it's God or just something. I mean, there's life that extends beyond us, even if it's just a mirror of us. There is something out there. And again, there's something out there, even if it's just simply a mirror of this universe. There's something there. You don't have to accept it's aliens. It could just be another rendition of us. You get to through the Van Allen belt, it goes, and then you get out there and the nice you is an asshole you, or you might be a jerk here and you're a great person over there. If things are really that cut and dry. All right, so I'm going to play this on the Altai pyramid.
I just wanted to share something with you that I discovered with what's called a meridian arc that is about a little over 5,400 nautical miles from the Altai pyramid in Russia to Lake Mead, Nevada. Probably the first thing you're thinking, if you're 99% of the people, is what the hell is the Altai pyramid? And so it's a naturally formed, well, hypothetically, a naturally formed pyramid structure that's in the Altai territory on the Baskchilasky Ridge in Russia. Sorry about my pronunciation. You can see the coordinates here on the screen up in the corner. I can zoom in on that for you if you're curious to find it on your own. You can punch those coordinates into Google Earth, and
then you'll find this. All right. But before we get into that concept, I just want to show you like what this says about our interconnectedness, that there's an inverse of everything within the universe, let alone here on Earth. Okay. To me, this will blow your mind. It did me. And I've been trying to find a way to articulate it visually, and I think this is it. So first of all, here's what one of the researchers that actually physically visited the site found. You can see there's almost like a wall. He calls it a China wall, like a Great Wall of China. I wouldn't really call it that, but I mean, it is kind of a wall forming structure on the top, right? And then you can see here on the aerial, that's what this is. And then as you go down to some of these other photos from this blogger, you can kind of see how the wall is formed with magma, especially here where you can see the way that the ridge line goes down. I mean, even though it's naturally forming, it has an almost like an intentionally built vibration to it. How else do I say? When you look at it, you just get the sense that, well, it looks like this now, but I have a feeling like it was something more relevant before, and it was done by design, and this is just the remnants of it. And these megalithic structures that exist all over the world, like the researcher Valery Uvarov has pointed out, does a lot of great material on this type of thing. They connect to one another. They are like communication networks, transmitting information to people, to node to node. People can actually, the reason you feel different at locations like this is because they have distinctly different energy signatures. I'm not just going to say that to say it. I mean, you can go out there with devices like the Helionosis LM4, the life meter, and actually measure orgone life energies and find out how areas like this compare to places that are just normal or at different elevations. And you'll see increases in these types of signals. You'll see an elevated orgone energy signature to these types of areas. People will report either feeling better or worse. And it's not always that they feel better. There's places that are pyramids that there was a lot of dark activity that occurred there, and they were designed as energy accumulators. And so those are areas where you might feel drained instead of energized. And these are all things that as we progress in our acceptance of certain types of sciences and alternative methods of measuring these things, we're learning more and more that these locations and the energies and the way they interact with humans, both at a physical level and an emotional, bioenergetic level, which is to say when people receive information, when you feel like you're getting a, quote, download, well, this is what makes it possible. It's these naturally forming structures that are designed to radiate upward where you receive messages from, and I'll let you guess who and where. That's entirely up to you how you interpret that. But we're going to be dealing with concepts here when I show you our interconnectedness. This is the Altai Pyramid, all right? And this is going to blow your mind. Before I talk about this, though, I just need to quickly familiarize you with the concept of a azimuth, which is going back to the Google Earth here. An azimuth would be dropping a center point right there, and then saying, for example, I want to know where true north is. So notice this blue line. I just take out my line tool, just like this. I go boom, like that. And you can see I can form a 0 degree, well, pretty close to, right? But anyways, you can see how that's lined up if you don't accept that there's north right there. But you'll notice that the Altai Pyramid is not pointing due north at this time. It could have been aligned that way before. Right now it's at 15 degrees. That's where the ridge line of the pyramid goes, okay? So that's the azimuth that it aims at, 15 degrees. Now, before we go further, I want to familiarize you with the term meridian arc. So when you're doing these measurements, I personally, I'll use the ruler setting for nautical miles because we're dealing with concepts that are not just strictly traveling by ground. It's like air, marine, water, things like that. How many nautical miles are you traveling by ship? And since these lines that I'm drawing go clear around the world, what I do is I anchor a point here, and I literally will aim it that direction and go all the way around the globe. When when you get from one point to the other, it hits right at about 10,800 nautical miles. This meter will max out here. Then you have to start another line from the center point in the opposite direction. So it would be like this. And so you'll observe here that, this 15-degree line goes all the way around the world, but for it to meet here, you have to start a center point here, go 180 degrees in the opposite, and it winds up as a 195-degree angle. But you see what I'm saying? The Earth is round if you accept that. So this line is effectively just wrapping all the way around the Earth. And so when we talk about meridian arcs, let's get back to this concept. I'm going to show you a meridian arc that's exactly as a quarter meridian, which means 25% from point to point. This will blow your mind, okay? Interconnectedness. Look at the shape of this. Pay very close attention to what I'm telling you here. This is amazing, I promise you. I'm going to show you some of the dimension of this pyramid so you can kind of get a sense of its height and depth. It is, like you see in these photos, it's a considerable structure, mountain, whatever you want to call it, the Altai pyramid. Now, watch where it goes. And I'll show you in the miles here. I'll put an anchor here. Trying. All right, here we go. Now, let's type in Lake Mead, Nevada. Remember, we're going all the way from Altai, Russia to Lake Mead, Nevada. And this is going to blow your mind. It's a pyramid structure in Russia. And when you go a quarter meridian, remember, a half meridian is about 10,800 miles. So a quarter meridian is about 5,400 miles. And look what you got there at about 5,479 nautical miles, a quarter meridian in the meridian arc. You get straight to the center of Lake Mead, Nevada. That's where this red line originates, from the Altai pyramid at 15 degrees, right where it's pointing. So do you understand what I'm showing you? That when you look at this structure from the sky, that looks like Lake Mead, does it not? Like the flux capacitor in Back to the Future. It's almost like what you do is like a cookie cutter makes an imprint in the dough. It's like the mountain, the Altai pyramid in Russia, when you go 25% around the world at 5,400 miles, 15 degrees from the point where this part is here. Remember, that's where the point is. That's the center of the pyramid. That's one wall. That's the other wall. And then you have Lake Mead on the other side. You need to see it again? Let's go back. I hope what I'm telling you resonates with you pretty strongly, because this says everything about our interconnectedness. Literally at a quarter meridian, this exact concept I'm showing you right here. Here, let's just hypothesize is Altai. And right here is Lake Mead. It works exactly like this, what I'm just showing you, in case you need a better visual of it. And here, it's the three-sided pyramid. And here, it's the Lake Mead that has, you see what I'm saying? Let's fly all the way around the world. And that's where that 15-degree point winds up from the Altai pyramid. It goes straight to the center point of Lake Mead, just like a cookie cutter. Pretty amazing, huh? So I just wanted to share that with you. I have a lot more of this type of research I'm going to be sharing. There's a lot of it, guys. I can show you so much interconnectedness between us and all these other places in the world that once you understand things the way that I do, it opens up a whole new world to the way you perceive reality and the way you approach world problems and let alone individual things. These types of revelations, when you really get them, will completely change everything, I promise. That's why I needed to share it with you in a way that's more coherent and cohesive. People seem to be resonating with it, so I'm going to be putting out more of these. So I really appreciate you. Thank you for watching.
All right. Yeah, and I did another story around the same time around.
When Gustav Eiffel's company built Paris's most recognized.
Shut up. I have no idea how to play that. I have that shut off, but it seems to turn itself back on all the time. Okay. All right. But yeah, I did another article around the same time about the whole controversy that got swept under the rug surrounding Elon Musk, Azalea Banks, the rap artist or the R&B rap artist. I'm not sure what she qualifies as because I don't listen to her music. I know her as the openly practicing Brujeria witch. So again, guys, like we have people like this that are in our culture, okay? And again, America is a free society, and people are free to practice religion, provided that um, it doesn't trample on the free will of another person. So yeah, like if she wants to practice brujeria and chant a million incantations out loud and say all kinds of rituals, that's her business. Just like if a Christian wants to pray to Jesus in a church over and over again and add influence and resonant energy to Jesus, they're welcome to. If a Muslim wants to go into a mosque in America and pray to Allah and direct their prayer at certain directions and however they want to do it, they're free to in this country. That's the way our society works. But I completely forgot why I went on that whole like rant on free of religion. I had no point in saying that. I totally took me off track as to why I even mentioned it. Oh, okay, yeah, because of Brujeria, right? Okay, so the point though is that I did an article around that same time though, explaining like what they were doing within that whole controversy, and I don't want to play it tonight because it's too long, but I would encourage you to go into my channel and just do a quick search under the term witchcraft, and you'll find pretty quickly you'll find it. It's about 20 some minutes, and I kind of do a whole dissection on the whole structural psychology and reality management, the PR aspect of like what they're doing with their Dadaist like events, and the challenge I've been having lately, guys, is like I take positions sometimes that are unfavorable to people that I'm trying to have understand my position better. So, like right now, for example, quite a few people that I think that would normally, welcome hearing information like mine may not find my opinion of Elon Musk to be consistent with theirs, right? Because they're still buying the narrative that this guy is somehow they're going to be their savior of free speech and that he's legitimately what he says he is. And I've been dissecting that long before this whole Twitter thing even happened. I was telling people, like, I don't think you guys understand what he is. These people aren't authentically thought leaders. They're not a lot of times authentically talented. Now, some of them are quite intelligent. I'm not going to suggest that they're all whatever, but many of them are really just repeating scripts. They really are just people that got they get different directions from different people. A lot of times when they're in interviews, their brilliance is really being fed through a headset. It's very Cyrano de Bergerac. It's like the film Roxanne with Steve Martin. I mean, those of you who've seen this or you know about Cyrano, I mean, these types of, if I'm saying that correctly, but that whole lore about the guy hides behind the bushes, the one that has the big nose, and he's the one that's in love with the woman. So he helps the more attractive guy who's kind of dim and doesn't understand, whatever, say all the right things. But see, he's saying the words of the man that's writing all the poetry who's behind in the bushes, right? And so she winds up falling in love with the guy who looks good, but it's because she's falling in love with the words of the poet who doesn't show his face. And so there's there's a certain element of that in this method, I guess you could say. as far as like the buffer character aspect is all I'm trying to say. Like they have a person like Elon because they can sell him as this sort of like hero to people when he's in charge of all of these things. They're really sort of bloated deep state deceptions that are wasteful, that take government money hand over fist, that aren't really being propped up by things that aren't supported by government funds. When you really get down to it, they're private run companies, but they're propped up entirely by government support and a perception of reality that's rooted in a lot of times deception. And that's why I don't like Elon Musk, is because I see him as a puppet character that's there to warm people up to a whole bunch of things that that are really destructive for humanity, or they're deceptions that for many, many decades we've all accepted as reality that just aren't the way that we think they are. And here he is now becoming a pioneer, like releasing all these things about the Democrats and things like that on Twitter. And so if I have any sort of opposition opinion of the guy, I look like a person that's just batting for the Democrats, right? I'm just trying to down your guy that's helping you. No, I just want you to know, take the win, okay? What he's doing right now, it's okay to like accept the information and to say, you guys did this, but you need to understand why they put this guy in charge of it. That's all. Don't think of him as your hero. This is a controlled release. This is how they manage the narrative on all sides. It is still their boy. Elon is still the mafia's boy, as much as the last people that were at Twitter were in charge of the narrative. Same team. Stop thinking it's a different team. They got the result they wanted. Now they're just shoving it in your face. So they're letting Elon be the guy that does it. Is anything going to change? Now, guys, if the election results get reversed, you may have something there. But who are you going to get? NBC. Reality management by NBC. Every time you have an alternative in America, it is brought to you by NBC. Trump, he's not establishment, you guys. He's not. He has not done the rituals. He's not establishment. But he was on The Apprentice on NBC. Hey, guys, you're sick of MSNBC, right? Right? You know, it's like all like, you know, we've had it with this. This is all a bunch of old farts and everything else like that. We need somebody that fights the real fight for us. Hey, here's this guy, Cenk Uygur. He's got this channel called TYT, the Young Turks, man. Hey, how about this? He's really talking like we talk. He's got all these young folks on here. Hey, where did he come from? NBC. Now, so your alternatives are brought to you by NBC if it's the Republicans. It's brought to you by NBC if it's progressive and young. Well, wait a second, though. Who else do you got now? Because TYT, everybody started figuring out that that was bullshit. They rubbed too many people the wrong way, and everybody hates their cast of characters now. So who do they reboot? Who do they got? They got Crystal Ball in there. Where'd she come from on the hill? Where did Crystal Ball come from, guys? And of course, her name is Crystal Ball. NBC. So anytime you have an alt media thing that has a little bit better than average production values, that's not like this, where it's just me on my shitty laptop that's like, you know, many years old and has a barely functioning 720p camera in it. These are the ones that have these like slickly produced studios and actually have funding that would require something beyond just user support. And it always looks professionally produced, exactly like something you would see on MSNBC. Their title cards are like replications, like their production is like the same style. And again, where you employed kind of influences how the flow of your work's going to be when you probably go to another place. But the stamp is all there. It's like it's the same system. It's the same editing. It's the same production values. It's the same directors. It's obviously being produced by the same people. So then once you zoom out from that, it's like, what is that really once you all tie it all back to NBC, the network? Why are all of our guys, I mean, we need to think about this. And I understand, guys, a lot of people love Trump. I'm not telling you not to like him. I'm just saying, like, why are all of our options coming from the same network that are major, like that are allowed any seat at the table? See, you can't argue with the guy like Sank unless you come from where Sank came from. See, you got to be a person that came from NBC to even be allowed to have a debate with Sank, because they've got to control the left and the right. So, yeah, Trump came from The Apprentice on NBC, contract NBC employee. Sank, contract NBC employee. Crystal Ball, contract NBC employee. All giving us our alternative options to thinking something outside the box that's not the standard MSNBC, Fox, CNN narratives. Well, thank you, NBC. I'm glad that we have another option that's just you, through which we can think something new. But it's all coming from the same network, so that's something that's worth noting, guys. That's all. And I hope for the best. I hope we do get some organic leadership. I hope that these people like do rise up and do the right thing. I hope some of them are different than we thought. You know, I think we program people with our belief a little bit. So I believe people can rise above all this and do something better maybe than you know, that they're originally set up to do. I think it's possible, but it's very seldom that happens. It's very rare is all. So, well, folks, I don't know if you have any questions or anything else like that before I sign off here tonight. I'm going to start summarizing this a little bit. I don't want this to like end on a negative note or anything else like that, guys. It was just, you know, I think this is all pretty miraculous, you know, things that we're finding here as far as connections. I think that thing between the Altai Pyramid and Lake Mead is pretty remarkable. And we need to start thinking deeper about what those connections mean and start studying those connections. And I think that that's what I want to focus on, guys. But you can understand, like, I have to get past all of this information involving politics and Democrats versus Republican crap that I'm not even interested in, because I want to study energetics. I want to know how these thoughts become things involving geographic locations manifest. Like, that to me is super interesting. I think this is something that's going to actually, it's going to be like world changing sciences. It's something that is going to like be like, people already kind of get it, but I think it's going to merge all these different things that different understandings together in such a way where it turns into a much larger, like all the different puzzle pieces will just merge together, and it'll be like, whoa, like really going to get something larger about the way the structure of reality is working. And I think we're on the cusp of a major miracle happening, where literally we're going to see something manifest into physical reality that's actually like a physical structure, like Stargate type things. And I don't think it'll be like some type of Project Blue Beam fake alien thing or something like that, or any crap like that, guys. I'm not that cynical. I think this is going to be something that happens by virtue of human brainwave and enlightenment and people understanding what's possible and actually making it manifest. And I think we're actually at the cusp of where there's a greater understanding and awareness, where people understand that they are bending energy. They're actually bending plasma they're bending plasma fields with energy. They're generating energy through what they focus and concentrate on. And those bions that emit through this energy signature in millivolts and goes out of their body through this biofield, this aura, that's your spiritual plane. That when it meets with all the other things and everybody else's spiritual plane, you see, when you share common ideas, when you share common values and ethics and beliefs, that's where the spiritual plane merges. But remember, what merges in spiritual manifests into physical. It's always true. That's why when more people believe in a religion, more churches get built, more crosses and more rugs for mosques or prayer rugs, or more, I mean, whatever it is, whatever symbol is behind the religion, more things manifest into physical reality that add more frequency and vibratory power and energy to the core concept. Always remember that. So what we're focusing and concentrating on as a spiritual concept is a physical concept. That's the valuable lesson here. And that's what I hope is this whole conversation got us to understanding better. Like, I hope I explained it as well as I could. So anyways, I don't want to keep going, guys. You know me, I like my 303s and my 333s and whatnots. So I'll leave it at that and have a good night. And we'll be seeing you soon.